We only have access to a limited number of Zoom polls, so we will do those first. We may do some hand raising, but we will mainly be using the Zoom.
Okay, we'll swear in people first, right?
All Zoom polls will pop up in a separate window. If you can't find the Zoom poll, look behind the main Zoom window by minimizing your main window. Again, the helpline phone number is 781-232-9248.
Steve will answer, well, depends upon what the questions are in the chat. I mean, Steve's gonna look at the points of order too. And, Mark's gonna make sure people raise their hand that we, if everything works right with this, well, it depends. If the new system works that we have, it'd be good. Yeah. Pardon me? Except Kelly. You have to ask Trish. I don't know. I'm ready. Are you ready? All right. Good evening. I call to order the May 3rd, 2021 annual town meeting of the town of Stoughton. The meeting is now in session. This town meeting is being held via remote platform Zoom webinar due to public health concerns arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is also being broadcast live through the Stoughton Media Access Corporation. Stand by, please. For me? Just stand by, please. We have a little technical issue with an echo. We're gonna resolve that. No, that's for the TV. When you talk, you should turn it on. Yeah, we'll turn green when you're ready.
That sounds good.
Want me to turn it back on?
What were you just doing? Because that I could hear.
Nothing.
Okay.
Microphone's, camera's off. Are we good? Yeah. Okay. I'm waiting on you. Okay, we are back. My apologies. So, as I mentioned, I called to order the May 3rd, 2021 annual town meeting of the town of Stoughton. The meeting is now in session. This town meeting is being held via remote platform Zoom webinar due to public health concerns arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is also being broadcast live through Stoughton Media Access Corporation and is being recorded for future broadcasting. I ask you now to please rise, stand as you are able, and join me in pledging allegiance to our national flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. I also like to just to note that over this year, the town has lost several beloved members of our town, our community, who have served our town in numerous ways. Stoughton is a better place because of their service. Please join me now for a moment of silence for those that we have lost. Thank you. All right, next I'd like to introduce our panel guests. I want to just check and see, we're expecting Congressman Stephen Lynch on. I'm just looking for him right now.
Hello there, I'm here. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Congressman, how are you? Welcome to the town of Stoughton, our virtual town meeting.
It's great to be with you. I prefer to be in person, but this will have to do, right? But I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Congressman, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you to members of town meeting, my colleagues in government. I know Senator Timothy and Representative Galvin and also Representative Ted Phillips, our new state representative, are supposed to be on the call tonight. I want to thank them for their service and working hard. We've had a lot going on in Washington. I haven't spoken at town meeting since the CARES Act passage. So that provided $2.55 million to the town of Stoughton, mostly for first responders to make sure that our teachers were paid, our firefighters, our police, EMS, and basically that money was meant for dealing with the health impacts of the pandemic. Most recently, however, we've also passed the American Rescue Act, and that provided, will provide $2.85 million for the town of Stoughton. But this is more geared towards getting the economy back. So there's a big piece there in that act, $2.85 million goes directly to the town of Stoughton. We refrained from dedicating the money to any specific purpose, and that was because we're dealing with 50 states and that are in different situations. So the only way to do it fairly and effectively was to allow the individual towns, such as Stoughton, to make a decision where their money would be spent. Some people were having terrible problems with COVID still, especially in the schools. Some had older buildings that needed ventilation improvements and new HVAC systems. So we left it to the town of Stoughton to decide how that money will be spent, and I'm sure it will be spent wisely, knowing the past performance of the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator and your town officials and the financial, the FinCom as well. So that money should be arriving. It may have already arrived in part, but it was supposed to be arriving right about now. We also have a major transportation bill that's coming up, and we had to rely heavily on Stoughton's engineer, Mark Tisdale. I'm on the transportation committee, so they've asked me to identify priority projects for the town of Stoughton. They've asked me to submit about 10 projects overall, but I know that we had some safety problems down on Canton Street at the intersection of Route 27 and School Street in Summer, and that's been a long-standing problem there. So we identified about $1.8 million that could be used to improve the pedestrian and bicycle access, also vehicular traffic as well, just to better re-engineer that intersection because it's been a crash site. It's been a problem for some time. So we also have the other project that Mark Tisdale helped us identify was at Canton Street and Tosca Drive and Central Street. And so that was a little bit more money. I think it was about $3 million for that site. A little bit more involved there with signaling and other improvements. But again, both a traffic management and a public safety issue. So we're very thankful for the participation of the local engineers in Stoughton. They really had a very good grasp of the situation, and we're really thankful for him as well. That's about all I have in terms of what's coming up. Well, obviously, we're still trying to negotiate that transportation bill. We would like it to be a bipartisan bill, both Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans have been helpful in identifying major projects in red states that, you know, we're so far behind. I think we've got 64,000 bridges across the country that are deficient. And so they're either, you know, 4-lane bridges that have been reduced to 2 because of the loading deficiency, or in some cases, they're bridges that have been shut down completely, and people have to seek an alternative route. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, and it's a long time coming, so we're very hopeful for that. So again, Mr. Moderator, I want to thank you for your courtesy. I know you have a lot of matters on the warrant tonight, so I'll yield back my time and just say what an honor it is for me to represent the town of Stoughton in the United States Congress. May God bless the people of Stoughton, and may God bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congressman Stephen Lynch. We appreciate you attending our meeting this evening.
And Bob, I have 3 town meetings tonight, so I may have to jump off this one. I've got another one in Milton, and I've got another one in, let's see, Milton and Westwood. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. It was great to see you again.
Good to see you, Bob.
Thank you. All right, at this time, the Congress office, we have a couple of people we like to recognize. 3 members of our town meeting. Stephen Lynch, Congressman Stephen Lynch, you were so nice to give us some members' recognition, the congressional recognition. I'd like to present this on behalf of Congressman Stephen Lynch to Gene Fleming in recognition of your dedication and service to the town of Stoughton as Deputy Town Moderator, Town Manager, and Town Clerk. Signed by Stephen Lynch, Member of Congress, and is dated May 3rd, 2021. Congratulations to Gene Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
We have another one. This one, a certificate also, congressional recognitions presented to Scott Carrara in recognition of your 9 years of service on the town of Stoughton's Finance Committee. Signed by Stephen Lynch, Member of Congress, dated May 3rd, 2021. Congratulations, Scott Carrara. And we have one more member. This certificate of special congressional recognitions presented to John Rock in recognition of your 9 years of service on the town of Stoughton's Finance Committee. Signed by Stephen Lynch, Member of Congress, and dated May 3rd, 2021. Thank you, John Rock.
That's the John Rock.
The John Rock. Thank you very much, Congressman, for
recognizing our 3
I'll
members
walk
of
down
our
and shake
town.
your hand, John.
Mr. Moderator, originally when we sent you the citations, we didn't know I would be joining remotely, but I do want to thank John and Scott and Gene for their service. You know, I spend 4 or 5 days a week in Washington, so we rely very.
Congressman, you're muted. Let's see if we can unmute you. There you go.
I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you. Originally, we expected that I didn't know when we sent the citations to you that I'd be attending remotely. Otherwise, I would have read them myself. But I want to thank Gene and John and Scott for their great service to the town of Stoughton. As you know, I spend 4 or 5 days a week down in Washington. I rely heavily really on members of the Board of Selectmen and other town officials, you as well, Bob. And I'm very thankful for your service. Sometimes it can be a thankful task. I don't know much that's more painful than serving on the Finance Commission, of our local town. Sometimes you take the slings and arrows of criticism when you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart. So I really do appreciate the work of our members that we recognize tonight, but also of everyone who serves in town government. It's a labor of love, and it really is the essence of our democracy. So congratulations to all the recipients tonight, and thank you to everyone who serves on town meeting. It's really the basis of our democracy here, and it is extremely important. So God bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Congressman.
Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you. All right, next I'd like to introduce our panel guests. We'll start with the school committee. We have Sandra Gropey, Chair, Stoughton School Committee. Katie Pina Enochian, Vice Chair, Stoughton School Committee. Anita Hill, member of Stoughton School Committee. I'm not sure, I haven't seen him, but Joseph McDonough, member of Stoughton School Committee. And Fabian Francois Morissette, member of Stoughton School Committee. Dr. John Marcus, Superintendent, Stoughton Public Schools. Kathy Piatelli, Stoughton Schools. And I'd like to turn over attention to the Select Board. We have Joseph McCrisky, Chair, Select Board. Deborah Roberts, Vice Chair, Select Board. Stephen Cavey, member of Select Board. And Scott Carrara, member of the Select Board. And we have Dr. Robin Grimm, our Town Manager. Stephanie Carrara, our Town Clerk. Lauren Goldberg, our Town Council from KP Law. We have Bill Rowe, our Town Accountant. Mark Tisdale, the Executive Director of Development Services. And we also have Ed Trumpio, Chair of the Finance Committee. Bob Desmond, Vice Chair of the Finance Committee. And also on the panel, there are precinct chairs to provide improved precinct representation. We have Mark Semanian from Precinct 1, George Stalinsky from Precinct 2, Richard Fitzgerald, Precinct 3, Julie Gito, Precinct 4, Carmel Drews, Precinct 5, Karen Klipp, Precinct 6, Diane Dolan, Precinct 7, and I believe we have Dave Sheehan, Precinct 8, online also. So at this time, I'd like to give a warm welcome to all our panelists and town meeting representatives. And I'd like to tell you who's present at Town Hall with me this evening. Stephanie Carrara, the Town Clerk, is here. Lauren Goldberg, Town Council from KP Law, is in attendance. Steve Cavey, member of the Stoughton Select Board. Mark Semanian, Chair of Precinct 1, is here. Trish Thropshire, Director of IT Department, is present. Cynthia Walsh, the town meeting rep for Precinct 2. She's here because she doesn't have Wi-Fi access. And Phyllis Kelleher, town meeting rep Precinct 2, is also here to do computer access. And we are also supported by the tech team from Mass Area Planning Council. All right, so at this time, I'm gonna ask Town Clerk Stephanie Carrara if you'd like to swear in those members that need to be sworn in.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Is it coming through? Trish?
Try again, Stephanie.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone that has not been sworn in yet as town meeting rep? Okay, hearing none. I will swear in the deputy moderator.
Moderator, Mr. Richard Fitzgerald. Mr. Fitzgerald, if you raise your right hand and repeat after me. Raise your right hand. beginning with-
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear to perform duties of deputy moderator per the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, bylaws of the town of Stoughton, and the laws of the United States, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
At this time, I have to recognize a few people that raised their hands. Margaret Sewick. Can we let her speak? Bring her in if we have to bring her into the panel. She raised her hand. And when you come into the panel, please unmute yourself and identify yourself and give us your precinct number, please.
Margaret Stewart, Precinct 6. That was a mistake. I did not raise my hand. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Peggy. Don't worry. We'll get it done. We'll get the I can't even, I'm having tongue twister tonight. We'll have the IT team put it down for you. Thank you, IT team. It's down. Next person that raised their hand was Antonio Souza. Mr. Souza, when you brought in, can you state your name and precinct number, please?
Yeah, it's Antonio Souza, Precinct 3. I just want to make sure that I was on.
You are on.
Thank you.
We can hear you, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up is Janai. I apologize for pronouncing your name, Janai Magalish Singh. Janai, we can bring
I'm
Janai
sorry.
in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That must have been an error. I didn't raise my hand.
That's okay, Janai. We'll have the IT team put it down for you. Thank you. And also, the next person that raised their hand was Joseph Soers. Please bring Joseph Soers in.
Bobby,
Joseph, can you state your name and precinct number?
my name is Joe Soers and I'm precinct 2, but I don't see my face up on the screen.
That's right. Everybody's face is being shown tonight.
Say again, buddy?
Not everybody's face is being shown tonight. Only the panelists? That's my
Okay.
understanding.
But I can see everybody on precinct 2 and I don't see me. Am I supposed
Okay,
to see
I'll
me?
have is your camera on? I'll have the IT.
I have nothing that says camera on my screen.
All right. Why don't we have you call the IT tech team, the
I did-
helpline?
I've done all that already, Bobby, and I left my message.
All right. Can I have the IT team, IT tech team jump on here and help them so we get that resolved, please? Let's just take a moment.
I'll leave my,
All right, Joe, here's what I just heard. You can't put your cameras on unless you're a panelist. You are not a panelist.
what does that mean?
Well, you won't be putting your camera on tonight. Okay?
I still don't understand.
Joseph, let me try to explain. You can talk, you can listen, you can hear, but you won't be able to see yourself on your screen. Just a control that is out on Zoom webinar. Okay, I gotta move on, Joe.
Okay, Bobby.
Thank you, Joe. All right. All right. You're not a panelist. Apparently, they're not letting you see yourself on your TV screen, on your panel here. If you're not on the panelist, you're not able to see the camera on. All right, we just want to move on here. At this time, we will suspend our precinct count and instead do attendance by using raised hand for each individual precinct. What we'll do is we're going to call one precinct at a time. And this will be for to get attendance. So we're going to call one precinct at a time, and you're going to, for example, don't do it yet, but we'll call precinct 1, they raise their hand, and the IT tech team will show it. And we're going to send out emails to the precinct chair so they know who's in attendance for their precinct. It's a little different from what we did last time around. Okay, this is for precincts, by precinct and for attendance. All right, I've just been told just 1 second or so till they're ready. first. We ready to go, IT team? With the IT tech team to make sure we're ready to go here.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. George Stalinsky, is that you?
Yes, sir. Let me lower my hand so it doesn't confuse anybody. Through voice counts and seeing who's been on the screen, I can confirm precinct 2 has 21 members precinct, either on the screens or via phone.
Thank you, George. But we're gonna do it this way since we already decided we're gonna do it this way. Thank you for
Okay.
the input. Appreciate it.
Well, I know there's 21, so
Thank you. Good turnout from precinct 2.
always.
We ready to go? Okay, for precinct 1 only, please raise your hand. Precinct 1 only. Trish, do we capture that information? Okay, we're scrolling, as you can see, we're scrolling the screen down so everybody can see who's present in precinct 1. All right, can you kind of break into the, could you tell the people online, Trish? Peter Ventresco, you're not precinct 1. Please lower your hand. Ben Thomas, lower your hand, please. Tony O'Souza, lower your hand, please. Okay, that looks good. Antonio Souza, lower your hand, please. Thank you. All right, we have 2 panelists that are not in this large group, Steve Cavey and Mark Zemanian, so there's 2 additional people. Okay, can we? Are we all set with this, Trish? Okay, are we automatically gonna lower their hands? There we go. All right, just make sure everybody's hands are down. We're gonna move on to the next precinct. Only for precinct 2, please. Please raise your hand now if you are members of precinct 2. That's precinct 2 only. Precinct 2 only. We're just checking the list, checking it twice.
Bob,
Yes,
I'm not too good at this computer stuff and I can't find the hand raise.
at the bottom of the screen, you should see, what device are you using, Scott?
What's that?
What type of, are you using a computer, laptop, iPad?
It's a laptop from the town.
Laptop from the town.
It's like an iPad.
Yep, okay. Can someone from the IT tech team help?
And I don't dare touch anything because Steph will kill me.
He's listening in on you.
Scott, on the top right of your screen,
Yeah,
do you see a toolbar?
in thin blue, Trish?
Yeah, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna get your cell number.
All right.
Why don't we just take his name down, add him to the list?
You're gonna have to do that because I can't do it.
That's okay,
Bob.
Scott. That's all right. Well,
I
This is
mastered
something
the
new.
little- I mastered the little one from finance and now this thing is a little.
This is just something new we're trying this year, just have some documentation of who's currently on for these precincts. Was that? One, yep, 21 people present, including Scott. All right, can we lower those hands so we can move on to the next precinct? Thank you. All the hands lowered? Joe Soers, can you lower your hand? Thank you, thank you. Everybody's hands are down. Okay, we're gonna move on. Precinct 3. Now please raise your hand, everybody in just precinct 3. Precinct 3.
Bob,
Yes. Identify yourself, please.
this is Dick Fitzgerald, Fitzy. I can't find a hand to be raised on the system that I have.
You have a laptop?
Nope, just working off an iPad.
iPad. I'll have to ask the IT tech team to help you. I don't have an iPad. I just don't use
Yeah.
it.
Aaron Clip is having the same problem, Mr. Moderator. I won't be able to make the motion. I won't be able to raise my hand, right? Well,
Okay, hold on.
Okay, that was precinct 3. Can we lower the hands for precinct 3, please? We'll try to move it along a little faster. Precinct 3, put your hands down. All the hands down. All right, next up is precinct 4. Please raise your hand for precinct 4. Oh, okay. Well, which one am I on? 4? Okay, this is for precinct 4. Can you put your hand down, please? We are trying something out new this year. Obviously, it's a slow process. Stephanie, right now, to make it easier, we do this, Stephanie, we'll do a quick quorum count. We'll do a present, just in the poll. We'll just be done with it. Right, that's precinct 4. Let's lower your hands, please. Everybody lower their hands. Lower your hands, lower your hands. Okay. Now this is for precinct 5 and only precinct 5, please. Precinct 5 only? Pat Colburn, I think you're precinct 5? I think you're precinct 4, I believe. Can someone double check? Pat, can you lower your hand, please? Right. All right. Right, this is not, obviously, it's a very slow process. I don't think we'll do this one again. All right, let's lower the hands for precinct 5. Please lower your hands. Steve Hahn, can you lower your hands, please? Lower your hand. All right, thank you. Precinct 6, please raise your hand. Precinct 6 only, raise your hand, please.
Mr. Moderator, Karen Clip doesn't have any hands.
All right, you can't put up your hand, Karen Clip?
I'm here, though.
Okay, can we note Karen Clip is present? That was precinct 6. Okay. This is helpful for the precinct chairs to know who in their precinct is present, because by the time we do a report, we can't get the reports up, done right away during the live broadcast here. So that was precinct 6. Okay. Let's lower your hands, precinct 6, precinct 6, precinct 6. Lower your hands. Precinct 6. Pat Yanakowski, can you lower your hand? Tony Souza, lower your hand, please. Okay. Precinct 7, please raise your hand. Only those in precinct 7, raise your hand, please. All right. Precinct 7, please lower your hands. Precinct 7, please bring your hands down. Please bring your hands down. Mr. Joel Wolk, could you lower your hand, please? Thank you. Precinct 8, raise your hand. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 is, the hands are up. Okay. Thank you all very much. That shows all the precincts. Lower your hands. All right, that's for the precinct chairs, so they know who's present in their precinct. And they can reach out to those people that they didn't see tonight to make sure they get on for Wednesday night. All right. We're still gonna have to do a poll for the quorum count, just to confirm how many people are present. I do see a couple of hands raised. Deb Sauvanet, will we bring in Deborah Sauvanet? I see your hand raised.
This is just a quick question.
Sure, Deborah.
And so I didn't see myself listed in the precinct 4 list, and I just was trying to confirm that, you know, that I was listed in precinct 4.
Sure.
That's all.
Thank you, Deborah. We'll make sure we write
Sorry.
your name down. Thank you.
Okay.
Lower
Thank
your
you.
hand, please.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Now I'm gonna ask the IT team to do a poll number one for the quorum count, just so we have an accurate recording on the poll for the record. Only town meeting reps vote, please. If you're not in the precinct, do not vote. And we're gonna put up poll number one, poll for the quorum count. And the difficult question is, are you present? Please, vote now. You have 30 seconds to vote. Everybody see the poll? Ten more seconds. All right, let's close the poll and share the results. Oh, okay, I have 100%. Can the IT team show me what the numbers are? See behind that poll. Let me close the poll. Yes, can you put the results back up, please? Yes, 146. And that's it. 0 no, 0 abstentions. So 146. So for a quorum, we need 74 tonight. So we do have a quorum to proceed. Thank you all. Next up, we need to have a vote on the virtual meeting. This is poll number 2. We need to have a vote on the use of a remote town meeting platform to either confirm or continue to a time and date, place certain in person. I would hope that everybody would vote accordingly, that we continue with the virtual meeting. It will get better, believe me. So poll is up. Please vote now. Ten more seconds. Okay, can we close the poll and share the results, please? And can we have the numbers up? Okay, I just need to. Yes, 9. No, 5, 1 abstention. Motion passes, 139 to 5 to 1. Thank you all. Next, I now invite procedural motions. I asked Mark Semanian, I recognize Mark Semanian.
Recognize people that have their hands raised.
All right, let me, okay, let me just keep going right now. Then I'll go to the people having their hands raised. I recognize Mark Semanian for the first motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to dispense with the reading of the warrant and the return thereof.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Steve Cavey. Next, for the second motion, I recognize George Zelensky of Precinct 2.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, move that no motions for reconsideration of any budget amount shall be in order until all departments have been initially voted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded that? Cynthia Walsh. Thank you, Cynthia. We're gonna vote these all together on one poll. Third motion, I recognize Steve Cavey.
I move that amendments or substitute motions for an article other than the operating budget be considered only if in writing, and further, that any proposed substitute motions or complex amendments be delivered in writing to the moderator, no later than noon on the day of the session at which the motion is to be made. During the COVID-19 pandemic, motions ought to be emailed to the moderator at bmullen@stoughton-ma.gov and a copy to the town clerk at scarrera@stoughton-ma.gov.
Second.
Second by Mark Sirenian. Next, the fourth motion, I recognize Cynthia Walsh, precinct 2.
Move that no reconsideration of any article take place until the last article has been completed at town meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by George Stalinsky. 101, I'm going to recognize Stephanie Carrara on this one. Number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that town meeting does not take up any new business after 10:30 PM.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, now, these are all, I should have mentioned this, these are all online on the virtual table. We're gonna do a poll. We're gonna bring up a poll on procedural motions. And we'll do what we did the last couple of virtual meetings. The poll is limited in how many words and how many letters can go into the poll. But I don't want to reread all those motions, but they're all in there. All right, so I ask you to vote on the poll for all those procedural motions. Please start voting now. Voting begins now. Ten seconds. All right, let's close the poll and share the results, please. All right, I need the numbers. $138 yes, 4 no, 1 abstention. Motion passes. All right, next, I'm gonna, some people have hands raised, so I'm gonna try to recognize some of these people. Janice McKenna, can we bring in Janice McKenna? When you, Janice, could you state your name and precinct number, please? Janice, can I mute yourself? Janice, go ahead.
Hello, I only could see one of the procedural motions to vote on. Are we just doing one at a time? I thought you were doing them all at once.
We did them all at once. We put them all in that, that poll.
Okay. I'm sorry, thank you.
That's okay, nope. I didn't explain it well. Next time I'll do better. Thank you. Is that all, Janice? Okay. Let's bring in Richard Terry. Richard Terry, when you're being brought into the panel, please state your name and precinct number.
This is Richard Terry.
Yes, precinct number, Richard?
Precinct 6.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I have no comments.
Okay.
I may have pushed the wrong button. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Apologize.
Rich, don't worry. Thank you. Richard Perlin? He had his hand up. We can bring in Richard Perlin. Once you're brought in, Richard, if you could just state your name and precinct number. Richard Perlin? Okay, give him another couple of seconds to be brought in. Don't see him. I'm assuming it's an error there. We're gonna move on. Next up is John Inzavino. Please bring in John Inzavino. When you come in, John, please state your name and precinct number. Okay, John.
I hate,
Go ahead,
but
John.
I didn't
John.
see anything about coming in, so.
What's that,
You
John?
can- All right, if you can hear me, that's fine. John Anzavino, precinct 4.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I was just wondering, are you gonna announce the attendance by precinct? Get all the numbers. I mean, we would normally have those.
We normally would in-person meeting, but tonight's a little difficult. We took that to take a copy of that and send it email to the precinct chairs.
All right, so you don't plan on doing the precinct attendance?
I apologize, we don't.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is John DeStefano.
Can you hear me?
John, precinct number, please.
Oh, John DeStefano, precinct 2.
Yes.
Can we limit the voting tonight to 20 seconds per article?
Well, I appreciate your recommendation, but I just want to give enough people the time to look at that. I think last time we had a virtual meeting, people asked to kind of keep it up there for a little longer.
What was
So
the
how about
last
we
time?
compromise? How about we compromise, John? We'll do 25 seconds, okay?
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Peter Ventresco. And then I have one more after this, and hopefully we can proceed. Peter Ventresco, when you're brought in, please state your name and precinct number. Peter? Okay, I'll come back to you. Next up is Juan Fox. Mr. Juan Fox, please bring him in so he can state his name and precinct number.
Juan Fox, precinct 1.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, the motion stated 12 PM, not 12:30.
Did it say 12 PM?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, was it read at 10 PM? 10:30 PM. Oh, it's 10:30 PM. What was the motion on the screen? 12 PM? Hang on a minute. Okay, let me just consult with town council. Hang on a minute. Okay, confer with town council. Since the motion was read correctly and seconded, we're all set. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. All right, next. There are two motions, I should say, two articles that we plan on dismissing this evening. So I'd like to before we do anything, I just want to let you know what we plan on doing. I'd like to take a motion to suspend the rules in order to take up two articles that we'll be dismissing right up front at the meeting tonight. They are Article 26, construction of the fire station, and Article 39, a petition article. In order to take these two articles out of order, I first need a motion to suspend the rules. I will now
So moved,
recognize...
Mr. Moderator.
Excuse me?
So moved, Mr.
Oh,
Moderator.
wait a minute, hold on, Mr. Delansky. You're jumping the gun. I gotta recognize Mr. Steve Cavey.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to suspend the rules for the express purpose of taking up as the first order of business, Article 26, construction of Stoughton Fire Station, and Article 39, which is a petitioned article by Robert O'Regan, in order to take these two articles out of order in order to dismiss these two articles.
Is there a second? Second. Second by Mark Semanian. All right, can we have a poll on that? And then we're gonna take up the articles in the next poll. So this is the poll, move to suspend the rules in order to take up Articles 26 and 39 out of order. Please vote now. 25 seconds, please. Okay, a couple more seconds. All right, can we close the poll and share the results, please? I need to see the numbers. I have 142 yes, 3 no. How many abstentions? One abstention. Motion passes. Now, I'm going to take one of these. I just need to take motions on each one of these articles. I recognize Joseph McCrisky for Article 26. Joseph? I think you have to unmute yourself. Joe, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I thought it was. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Stoughton Select Board, I respectfully request to withdraw Article 26.
You moved to dismiss Article 26. I think that might be a better way to say it.
And then I would change withdraw to dismiss.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Mark Zemanian. All right, we're going to take the next article up. We're going to vote them the same on the poll. We'll combine them both on one poll so we can save our polls tonight. Next article is 39. I recognize Mr. Bob O'Regan as the petitioner of that article for a motion to dismiss. Could you bring in Mr. O'Regan? And when you're on the panel, Mr. O'Regan, could you state your name and that you're, you should give your address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Robert O'Regan, 26 Freely Drive as petitioner. I move that Article 39 be dismissed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. I'll take that second from Sandra Gropey. All right, now we're going to put those two articles on one poll. And this will be poll number 5. Poll number 5, could you put the poll number 5 up on the screen, please? The poll says move to dismiss Article 26 and Article 39. Please vote now. And you have 25 seconds. Close the poll and share the results. and I just need to see the numbers. All right, yes, 139, no 6, abstention 0. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. O'Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
All right, I just want to tell you how we're going to proceed this evening. We have the Q&A, which on most screens is on the bottom of your screen if you have a laptop or a desktop computer, being monitored by Steve Cavey for points of order. And as soon as he sees a point of order, you need to type in point of order and briefly what the point of order is. He'll bring it right to my attention. And depending upon what the point of order is, most points of orders, I will address it immediately. Mark Zemanian will notify me of any town meeting reps that raise their hands that want to speak on an article. And also, the Mass Area Planning Council will show on the screen the queue of who's in line to speak on an article. This is the first time we're doing it. We hope that works fine. And we'll proceed accordingly. Also, a few points for me to review with the town meeting reps. This is obviously, we're doing this by computer again. We need to all be patient. I ask you when you do speak, when you raise your hand or you're identified to go ahead and unmute yourself to speak, please speak slowly and make your points clearly and succinctly. As if you're recognized as the person to make a presentation, you have up to 10 minutes. I will stop you at the 10 minutes. I'll have you muted. Also, after we have the presentation and after the reports are read by the FinCom and the standing committees, it will be followed by a period of technical questions. We're going to go back to the way it was a couple of town meetings ago, just to allow everybody to ask questions that are needed, that sometimes just don't get answered. And then that will be followed by pro-con debate. And comments for town meeting reps will be allowed up to 3 minutes. And obviously, as we all know, I'm just going to repeat this for the people at home, debate will end when there are no more speakers or a motion is made that moves a question and that is voted on and passes. And then we'll take a vote on the particular article. Okay, at this point in time, we're ready to proceed with the first article of the night. This will be Article 2, to receive reports. Yeah, since it's not a money article, can I get a motion from the town manager, if that's possible?
Yes.
Or it's whoever would like to take that.
Mr. McCrisky?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Mr. McCrisky.
Article 2, to receive reports, to see if the town meeting will vote to receive the reports of any boards, commissions, officers, or other duly established commission, council, or authority, or take any other action relative thereto.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Steve Cavey. All right, I'll read, for the sake of efficiency, I'm just going to read the standing committee report here. Intergovernmental Relations voted 5-0 to recommend the town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion. All right, we have a PowerPoint. This is pretty much a routine article. We're going to go to Article 2. Here we go. All right. Does the Board of Selectmen, Joe, do you want to have a presentation, or are we just going to go forward on this one?
Yeah, I don't think there's really a need for that, Mr. Moderator, unless the town manager has anything she would like to add.
No, I see her shaking her head. No, okay. No. All right, before I proceed, I have two people that raised their hands. John DeStefano. When he's brought in, please state your name and precinct number.
John DeStefano, Precinct 2.
Yes, John, go ahead.
Bob, I was wondering why we weren't allowed to ask why those two previous articles were dismissed.
There's no debate or discussion on motions to dismiss. So I just followed the procedure.
All right, I just wanted to know, just out of curiosity.
Well, let me just provide a little information that the Board of Selectmen decided to dismiss Article 26. It's their preference. And Article 39, the petitioner, Mr. O'Regan, wanted to dismiss his article. And that's
Okay.
pretty much it on both of those.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Next up is Eric Coleman. Please bring in Eric Coleman.
Good evening. I just wanted to make
Precinct number, Eric?
Mr. Moderator, I just wanted to make a comment that on the annual report, there is no index and there is no table of contents, which makes it very difficult to look for anything. So I would suggest that in the future, we have those two pieces put into the annual report.
Okay, I see it, Dr. Robin Grimm shaking her head in acknowledgement. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate those comments. Are you all set now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Nope, I'm getting a shake of heads. No, okay. Can we have the time for the vote? There's not much to talk about this article. I should say, is there any technical debate on this? I don't believe there should be. If there is, we'll recognize it. All right. People have their hands up. Okay, I'm getting that information right now. Presentation. Okay. We have some assistance here. Okay.
So everybody can see the hands.
All right, thank you. All right, so you can see the show of hands now. It's moving along my screen here somewhere, but, all right, first, can we bring in Janice McKenna? Janice McKenna, and when you're brought in, just unmute yourself and state your name and precinct number, please. Just unmute yourself, Janice. Go ahead, Janice.
Janice McKenna, Precinct 8. I made a mistake.
Okay, no problem. Next up is John Charbonneau. Can we bring in John?
Hi, Mr. Moderator, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Go ahead, John.
Just a quick question. I had prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation to update town meeting on the Stoughton Center District. I was wondering if that was going to be taken up tonight or...
Yes, what I'll do, John, is I'm glad you brought it to my attention. I was gonna do it after a couple more articles, but just to get moving along, but I'll bring it up right after this article too, after we take the vote.
Great, thank you, Mr. Moderator, appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next person up, Janice Snyder. Had your hand raised. When we bring Janice in, please state your name and precinct number. Janice, go ahead. Just unmute yourself.
Sorry, Mr. Moderator, I didn't need to raise my hand.
Okay, thank you, no problem. All right, I think we're ready for the poll on Article 2, receiving reports. Can we present the poll, please?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes. Is that Mr. Fitzgerald?
I had my hand up. I have a quick question.
Sure, I didn't see you. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, all right. Isn't this normal procedure to table this article until the end of the town meeting and then we take it off the floor because there are reports that are going to be coming up during town meeting that we either vote for or not vote for?
No, we addressed this last time around. I'm gonna have the town council speak, if you don't mind, just to
Oh,
address
go
this.
ahead.
Thank you. This is Lauren Goldberg.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you. As we discussed previously, this is really a formality. The actual reports themselves will be presented, and this article is essentially a placeholder so that there's an opportunity to remind people that they exist.
Thank you.
Okay. We addressed this last time around too at the special, I believe when it was October. We routinely always did it. I understand that in the past, but breaking new ground a little bit with everything, we realize that we don't have to do it the old-fashioned way. So we're gonna move forward with Article 2, receiving reports. Can we have the poll, please, when you're ready? Okay, please vote now. 25 seconds. Okay. Let's end the poll and share the results. So we have 143 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention. Motion passes. All right, so at this point, okay, I was asked to read the pages next time when we go looking at the articles, read the articles. I'll make sure I mention the page numbers in the book. Appreciate that comment. At this time, can we take down the poll? Okay, John Charbonneau, please introduce yourself and tell us what you want to do tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do I have the ability to share my screen with everybody?
I believe Trish is gonna bring up your screen.
Okay, great. I just have a brief 5-slide PowerPoint presentation for town meeting to give an update on the status of the Stoughton Center District zoning efforts. So I promised it won't take very long once it's up.
Sure, and John, why don't you give us your title so everybody understands,
Sorry,
especially
my
the
name
people
is
at
John
home?
Charbonneau. I'm the town planner for the town of Stoughton.
Thank you. Can we get the name of your presentation, John, so we can find it?
I believe it's called, let's see, Stoughton Center District Update Timeline.
Just give us a moment, John.
Yep.
While we're waiting for that, can we bring in John Anzavino? Here's a point of order.
Great.
Okay, just hang on a second, John Charbonneau.
Yep.
We're waiting to hear from John Anzavino once he's brought in.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, John Anzavino, Precinct 4.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I just question, what are we hearing this for now, if it's not anything to do with any of the articles we have right now?
Well, I'm using the discretion of the moderator to, he asked to, if he could present a little bit of, a very brief, presentation.
That's fine, but is there an article on this in here?
No, he just wants to give the,
Okay, that's fine, if there's no article and we're not taking anything out of order, that's fine, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
oh, you're welcome. No, good point, John. I should have, yeah, I just wanted to keep moving along with the articles before I brought them in. Because we were a little slow off the curb there, so to speak. So, let's have John Charbonneau proceed then. Go ahead, John.
Great, thank you, Mr. Moderator, and I appreciate the indulgence of town meeting. This was at the suggestion of Christine Howe before she stepped down during a meeting of the Downtown Task Force to just bring town meeting up to date on where the status of this bylaw is, since there was money expended back at the end of 2019 for the project, to show everyone where this stands. Next slide, please. So since January of 2021, presentation by the consultants and me, the Downtown Task Force and the Planning Board have been working diligently on finalizing the following aspects of the proposed bylaw: dimensional regulations, parking regulations, sub-district boundaries, the sign regulations, and incorporation of downtown design regulations into these bylaws. Completion of these aspects required consultation with Town Council and will continue to require it moving forward. Completion of the sub-district boundaries also required a site walk of the downtown between the consultants and members of the Planning Board, the Downtown Task Force, and the working group. Next slide, please. So the next steps: the consultants have implemented the final edits from the task force, the planning board, and the working group recently discussed, and have finalized 3D graphics to illustrate the proposed dimensional regulations for the public. Public vetting will begin, and this is another reason for this update. Public vetting will begin with the posting of the draft bylaws and the flyer for a June 7th virtual public forum. Right now, I'm in the process of setting up a file on the planning board webpage to have the draft bylaws, the flyer, and all relevant information to the Stoughton Center District bylaw available for public viewing. That should be done within the next day or so. And then I will begin outreach to town meeting members and the public regarding the June 7th public forum. The consultant's presentation will also be included for public viewing on the planning board webpage. And as I stated, there will be extensive outreach to publicize the public forum on June 7th. Next slide, please. So here is the proposed outreach timeline, so everybody's aware of what is going to happen leading into the fall town meeting. Tonight's update: the public forum on June 7th. There will then be a planning board public hearing on July 22nd after the first public forum and comments. Then we will have a second public forum either on July 28th or August 4th, 2021. Then another public information session in mid-September to keep people aware of and have thorough public vetting of the draft bylaw. Going into the pre-town meetings with the Finance Committee and the Standing Committee on Municipal Regs. Then I will have a town meeting representative informational session sometime in early October, and then fall town meeting sometime, I'm assuming sometime in early November, late October. So that is the timeline, and there will be an article proposed at the fall town meeting of this year. Next slide, please. So in summary, when the process began, the projected timeline for completion of the bylaw was approximately 1 year. The first meeting of the working group was held on May 14th, 2020. Therefore, we are just about 12 months into the process in 11 days. The project has remained on schedule and within budget despite COVID restrictions and related delays. At their meeting on March 16, 2021, the Select Board voted to not schedule a special town meeting within this annual town meeting to allow for proper public review and feedback of the proposed bylaw, which is what we're about to begin. So we wanted enough time for there to be thorough public vetting going into any town meeting. So thank you again, Mr. Moderator and town meeting members. I just thought it would be important for town meeting members to be aware of the progress of the project and know that it is on time and within budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John Charbonneau, the town planner. Thank you again. All right, we're gonna proceed to Article 3. And I believe, is Ed on, or is it Bob Desmond's gonna take over the motions?
I don't think Ed's here.
Okay, let me just, Article 3, that is on page 5 of the warrant, accept and contract funds for town roads. Mr. Desmond, can you read the motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Proposed motion that the town vote to authorize the select board to accept and enter into contracts for the expenditures of any funds allocated or to be allocated by the Commonwealth for the construction, reconstruction, and the improvement of town roads.
Is there a
Finance-
second? Seconded by Mark Zemanian. All right, Bob Desmond, can you also read the Finance Committee report?
Finance Committee voted 14-0 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
I'm gonna just read the intergovernmental relations report. Voted 5-0 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion. All right, is there a presentation on this by the Board of Selectmen or Town Manager?
Mr. Moderator, refer to the town manager if she has any presentation.
Sure,
No,
thank
we do
you.
not, we do not have a presentation. This is a standard acceptance of state money.
Okay, let me ask the town meeting reps, are there any technical, non-debatable questions? Just raise your hands if you have any. Okay. Okay, no. Anybody else? No, but I see your hand went down. Okay, let's move on to pro and con debate. Anybody have any pro and con debate on Article 3? Give it another couple of seconds. Seeing none? All right, let's have the poll go up. It's time to vote. So we present the poll for Article 3. Accept and contract funds for town roads. All right, you see the Article 3, accept and contract funds for town roads. Please vote. You have 25 seconds. All right, give you another second or two, get your votes in. All right, let's close the poll. Share the results. The results are 140, yes, 145, noes are 1 abstention. Motion passes.
How the hell did somebody is?
All right, moving right along. Article 4, apply for and accept federal state funding. It's on page 6, please, of the warrant books. Can we have a motion by the Finance Committee, please? Bob Desmond?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Proposed motion that the town vote to authorize the select board to apply for and accept any federal and/or state funding or grants that are or may be available to the town.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by George Stalinsky. All right. Bob Cohn, I believe you have your hand up. Actually, sorry, before we do that, I skipped a step here. It was seconded by George Stalinsky. Bob, can you read the Finance Committee report?
Finance Committee voted 14-0 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Let me read Intergovernmental Relations report. Voted 5-0 to recommend the town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion. All right, now Bob Cohn raised his hand. So Bob Cohn, let's bring in Robert Cohn. I don't know if it's point of order or not.
Bobby, can you hear me?
Yes, I do, Bob. Please state your name.
My name is Robert Cohn. I'm from Precinct 5. And I had a question on Article 3, but I guess you went by it, so no, I don't have anything on Article 4.
Sorry, Robert, you're out of order. We did go by it. Anything on Article 4?
I-
Nothing? Okay. Thank you. All right, any technical, non-debatable questions on Article 4? Raise your hands if you so have them. So have a request to discuss. If not, okay, pro and con debate. Bob, do you have your hand up? Bob Cohn? Let's bring in Bob Cohn again. And just unmute yourself, please.
I have I have nothing to say on this part. I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem, Bob, no problem. See if you can put your hand down.
I did now. I'm sorry.
That's okay, hey, no apologies needed. Someone's asking a question, why are articles not typed out? I'm not sure what that means. It's in the book on page 6, this particular article. And it's a PowerPoint on the screen. It should be right in front of you. If you do have a particular question or concern, please call the help desk, or you can raise your hand and I'll ask you to tell us what your concerns are. All right. George Zelensky, do you have your hand up? George,
Yes,
please
sir.
state your name and
Yes, Mr. Moderator. My question is,
precinct number, please, George.
precinct 2, sorry.
That's okay.
Can you give me, or somebody give me an answer as to how much money we collected last year for this type of article?
Can anybody answer that?
I don't know specifically. I'm assuming that if we look at the CARES money, for example, that would be federal funding. So we'd be talking several $1 million. State funding to accept any grants. For example, this current budget, we're looking at $250,000 in MassWorks grant for the sewer, 2.5 million, I should say, 350,000 in federal grants. We also have grants that do our substance abuse task force. So if we add the COVID money, it's actually in the millions.
George, does that answer your question?
Yes, I would appreciate it if somebody or somehow we could get this information into the books, so we don't have to waste our time asking the question. It would apply to Article 3 also.
Well, we don't always know in advance. The road money, we tend to know a little bit better, but even that, sometimes we get traffic improvement money, tip money. We can go by what we got the year prior. We could produce that.
I
and
think
give
that
you a
would be
sense of
very
what we got
helpful. It gives us an idea what we're voting for.
Sure.
Robin, we have Bill Rowe. He has his hand up. Town accountant Bill Rowe. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We have in audit reports called the Report of Schedules of Expenditures of Federal Awards. And for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, we spent $2,993,020 in federal funds. We don't have a similar report for the state, but I can get that for the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. I'm going to hear from Lauren Goldberg, Town Council, right now. Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would just mention that a lot of times federal grants that we may be applying for will require that there's specific authorization by the legislative body. So this essentially gives the board the ability to apply for and accept any of that funding. And it's pretty routine. We do it every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Town Council. That answer your question, George?
Yes, it does.
Okay, is there anybody else? Technical, oh, I'm sorry, next one is Mark Struck. We're still in the technical questions, non-debatable. Mark Struck, please bring in Mark Struck. Mark, when you're brought in, please state your name and precinct number.
Mark Struck, Precinct 7. Mr. Moderator, it was actually the question that I had typed in about the articles. On the previous polls, you just had Article 3 and that was it. Or Article 2. It wasn't the fully typed out proposed motion or the actual motion that we are voting on. I was wondering if we could actually have the actual motion that we are voting on
Well,
typed out.
Depends, let me ask you a question, Mark. It depends how many, well, I'll be watching them. We are limited how many, characters can go in there into the poll, but I'll watch it next time. All right, I'll try to get the answer how many characters can go in there into the poll. Very limited. Any
All right,
other
well,
questions, Mark?
At least have the main, or if the motion changes from what is in the book, if that can be typed out.
It depends. It actually depends.
Because how will there be a record that we know which one we are actually voting on if it's not up there?
Let me have town council answer that one.
Mr. Moderator, so, to my understanding, we are taking the polls, and voting on the motion that's in the book where it says proposed motion. If the proposed motion is different, the moderator asked for those to be available at least by 12 o'clock in the afternoon on the day of the meeting. And so there are several that are also on the virtual table. So once the motion is made and seconded, then when it comes time to vote, the moderator says, okay, we're going to take a vote on Article 4. And that's, you know, again, that's the way that we did it last time and it worked pretty well. And as the moderator mentioned, the Zoom polls are very limited. You're not allowed to write out a lot of information there. So the goal is to just get the high notes in terms of the article. But the moderator does repeat what the town meeting is voting on before we get to the poll.
Okay, thank you both for the
Is
clarification.
that okay, Mr. Strucky? Did that answer your question?
Yes, Mr. Town Manager.
Okay, we're gonna move on. All right, any other non-debatable technical questions? Seeing none, Mr. Struck, can you put your hand down, please? Okay, let's move on to pro and con debate. Does anybody have their hand raised? Okay, everybody check on me. I don't see any hands raised. We're good? All right, seeing that there's no more speakers, let's vote on it. Let's bring up the poll. Poll is up. And we're looking for Article 4. Article 4. We have Article 3 up. We need to bring up poll Article 4. We'll stand by, please. I gotta bring this one down. There's Article 4. Apply for and accept federal state funding. All right, please vote now. We have 25 seconds. Last second or two. All right. Let's end the poll. Share the results, please. All right, the results are yes, 147, no, 0, abstention, 0. Motion passes. All right, let's proceed to Article 5 of town property. Let me just clear my, okay. We're on Article 5, that's page 7 of the warrant book, page 7. Can I have a motion from the Finance Committee?
Proposed motion that the town vote to authorize the select board in or its designee to dispose by auction or otherwise town-owned property in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30B.
All right, do I have a second? Seconded by Mark Zemanian. Bob Desmond, can you read the Finance Committee report, please?
Finance Committee voted 14-0 to recommend a town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
I'm gonna ask Cynthia Walsh, are you available to read the municipal operations report?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, please.
voted 5-0 and 1 abstention to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you. All right, is there any presentation by the Board of Selectmen or the Town Manager?
No.
No? Board of Selectmen, Joe McCrisky?
No, Mr. Moderator, thank you.
All right, you're welcome, just asking. I'm told that Bob Cohen has his hand up. Can we bring in Bob Cohen? I don't know if you're having difficulty, Bob, but I just don't want to overlook you, so we're going to bring you in. And when you're brought in, please state your name and precinct number. All right, I don't see Bob Cohen. Can we bring in Peter Ventresco? His hand's raised.
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes, Peter, please state your name and precinct number, please.
Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. I would like to know what kind of land that we're auctioning off. Are they buildable land or are they oddball lots?
All right, hang on a second, Peter. I thought you had a point of order. All right, so let me just say, we'll go into a period of technical questions. Go ahead, Peter.
Well,
State your,
I'd like to know if these are buildable lots or they're oddball lots that are between two houses that you can't build on. And chances are nobody's going to buy them because they can use the land without even owning it. That's my question.
can anybody answer that from? Dr. Robin Grimm, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Sure. I can answer that. Basically, this would be just the authorization to sell off property. It could be oddball lots. It could be a particular parcel that the board may deem the town doesn't need or want anymore. When we do sell land, it either has to go at auction or typically an RFP, though. We can't have somebody call us and say, hey, I want to buy this piece of land and just arbitrarily sell it to any one person. But this opens us to be able to sell any type of parcel.
Well, I just think it'd be nice if we voted on this, if it was buildable land or it wasn't buildable land. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to make a little presentation or you're okay on this one?
Me, I'm okay.
Okay. All right, Joe McCrisky, did you want to make a presentation or anything? Just asking to.
No, Mr. Moderator, just quick, I think this is mainly, for lots that come up that are really no value to the town, either landlocked. We did this back in 2015. They were just a couple pieces. They were landlocked or absolutely useless to the town, where we were maintaining it and it went out to bid. My intention, and I can't speak for my colleagues, but I think if it was any major piece of property, I think it should get a vote of town meeting, and we would probably defer to town meeting if it was anything that was that big. Thank you.
Okay. All right, John Lenahan had his hand up. John Lenahan, please, when you're brought in, please state your name and precinct number.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Lenahan, Precinct 1. I was just hoping that the Board of Selectmen would notify the town committees when they have land that they're considering putting up for sale, in particular the Open Space and the Conservation Commission and others, in advance before they put it up for sale, just so we can give it due consideration.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm sure they heard you and they note that. Thank you, John. Any other, we're in a period of technical questions, non-debatable technical questions. Any other questions? Because I'm going to move on to pro and con debate. Seeing no hands raised, pro and con debate. Anybody have any other questions, comments? I'm going to keep moving if you don't put your hand up. Seeing none, time for voting is at hand. Can we have the poll for Article 5, please? Please present the poll for Article 5. All right, Article 5 is on the screen, disposal of town property. Please vote now. All right, let's end the poll and share the results. We have yes, 141, no, 3, abstentions, 2. Motion passes. All right, now we're on to Article 6, Cedar Hill Enterprise Fund that appears on page 8 of the warrant books. Page 8. We just need,
Mr. Moderator,
yes,
Article 6, to see if the town will vote to pursuant to the provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F&a half, to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, or borrow or sufficient amount of money to fund the Cedar Hill Golf Course for the fiscal year 2022, or take any other action relative to thereto, on page 8, and I will defer to the town manager for a presentation, sir.
okay, just before we move on, what we normally do, Joe, I apologize, I should have announced this earlier. If it has to do with finances, usually the FinCom makes the motion.
Okay.
Okay, but that's fine, you read it very well, thank you very much. Can we have the FinCom give their report? Bob Desmond?
Finance Committee voted 13-1 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you, sir. Municipal Operations, Cynthia Walsh?
Municipal Operations voted 4-0 with 2 abstentions to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion. I abstain because I'm a member of the Cedar Hill Golf Course Operations Committee, and another member abstained because she missed the public hearing.
Okay, I'm just gonna have the FinCom reread that motion for clarification. Bob Desmond, can you read your motion, please?
Proposed motion that the town vote pursuant to the provision of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F&a half, to appropriate the sum of $268,762 to fund Cedar Hill Golf Course for fiscal year 2020, with $9,174 to be raised and appropriated under Article 16, i.e. subsidized by the general fund, and $241,337 to be raised from FY 2020 Cedar Hill Golf
2022,
Course
I believe,
revenue.
right? 2022, I'm sorry, Bob.
FY 2022, yes, Cedar Hill Golf Course revenue and $18,251 transferred from Cedar Hill Fund retained earnings for such purposes.
Okay, do I have a second? Seconded by Mark Zemanian. The fiscal years in that motion were both FY 2022, just for clarification. And we did read the Finance Committee report. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. No, we did. Okay, and the Municipal Ops was read. Okay, so now let's go to 1 second, please. Just stand by. Mark, was this hand raised or is this? Okay, was it a point of order or just a hand raised? Okay, I just want clarification. All right, this is for, we're into the period of technical, non-debatable questions. I have Eric Coleman.
Could I give the brief presentation?
I'm sorry. Yep, I jumped ahead. I got
Okay.
3 things going on here. Thank you, Dr. Grimm.
Thank you. And then I'd be happy if there are further questions. I know Mr.
Sure.
Coleman and Mr. Hanson have their hands up. I just wanted to briefly update on this. We have a small subsidy in this year's general fund, approximately $9,000 to go over to the golf course. I want to point out that in the time that I've been here, and with the support of the board and the encouragement of the board, particularly the most recent board, the golf course has really been thriving, and that's a credit to Mr. Baruza, the board, our team who works together with Mr. Baruza to ensure things look great. We now have a vendor who pays rent. We promised you that we would do that. We have done that, and even in the midst of COVID, their rent was about $4,500 approximately by March 31st, and that was with a major shutdown still going on for the first part of this year. I would like to point out too that our golf course revenues overall, and that's partially because of things like the concessionaire, like Parks and Recreation, running programs over there to make it awareness increases in membership. Our revenues have gone up this year 50.6%. And since I came on board in the 2019 year, we have seen over a 100% increase in revenues. at the golf course. It's just been phenomenal. Again, we have a $9,000 subsidy going over. I actually doubt we may, not need that. It was just we have to base on prior year's numbers to comply with DOR. I will tell you that in April alone, but I had through March 31st on some numbers that showed a $349,000 revenue. April alone, we had $51,000 in revenue. And just last weekend, Sue Herman informed me we had $6,400 in revenue just last weekend. So this is very exciting, and it's across the board. It's in memberships, it's in rentals of golf carts, it's in green fees, it's in the concessionaire. We asked town meeting to support us several times on the golf course and investing money in the golf course. And the board, myself, my team promised that we would return on that investment. Mr. Baruza has done a stellar job. The concessionaire is doing a great job. Fran Brutniti, who worked on the procurement of that contract. I can't thank enough people. This is really a great success story and a credit to everybody. Thanks to the select board for supporting this. Mr. Bukrisky leading that from his position on the select board prior to this current position there. And I have to say, we've just had tremendous success. This is just a really good story in the midst of pandemics and bad news. So I'm just kind of excited to take a minute to do that. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
I think Bill Rowe would like to speak. Bill, I'll recognize Bill Rowe, our town accountant. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, as part of these motions, and you'll see this throughout the enterprise funds, there is some confusion that but we don't appropriate what's called the indirect costs, which are costs that are paid by the general fund on behalf of the enterprise funds and reimbursed by the enterprise funds. So we don't normally appropriate those. On the following pages after the article for each, you can see there's an outline, and the last column will give you the total costs. It'll give you the breakdown of the costs appropriated in the enterprise fund and the costs appropriated in the general fund. So if you're comparing those two, if you're comparing the article to the schedules, the difference is going to be the indirect costs, which are not appropriated as part of Articles 6 through 10. And the Cedar Hill subsidy, there are 2 enterprise funds that have subsidies this year. And that's basically the difference between the amount that's budgeted and the amount of the estimated revenues. And again, those are not part of the actual appropriation, but those are appropriated as part of Article 16 in the general fund. But when you see a general fund subsidy, that's the difference between the budgeted expenses and the estimated revenues for 22. That's all I have, really.
We good?
If I just could add quickly, Mr. Baruza just messaged me that last year we had 7,304 rounds of golf. This year to date, with 2 months to go, we have had 12,668. So we are up by about 5,300 rounds of golf with 2 months to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both. I just have to remind everybody, we're gonna maintain the moderator's request to keep presentations to 10 minutes, total presentation. Right now, I just want clarification. I think Mark's Manning, did you second that? Where's Mark? He did. Yep, okay. Just someone asked a question. All right, now I have some other people for some technical, non-debatable questions. Elliot Hansen, please bring in Mr. Elliot Hansen. And when you come in, please state your name and precinct number. Okay, Elliot, just unmute yourself. You're ready to go. You're unmuted. State your name and precinct number, please. Wait, I'm gonna move on. If you still have your hand up, we'll come back to you. This is Vaughn Anokian. Vaughn Anokian, please bring in Vaughn Anokian. And when you come in, Vaughn, please state your name and precinct number.
Vaughn Anokian, precinct 4.
Yes, Mr. Anokian. This is non-debatable questions.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Go ahead.
At a finance committee meeting recently, it was stated that there were municipal employees working at the Cedar Hill Golf Course, and the question come up of how many hours those employees were working over there, and it was stated that an answer would be given at some point. Do we have any answer yet on how many hours municipal employees were being used over at the Cedar Hill Enterprise Fund that were not accounted for?
We have an answer for that?
I don't know if Mr. Baruza has a specific answer. I do want to clarify, these were employees who were on the payroll already. We're staying on the payroll because we did not lay off because unemployment would have required us to pay 2/3 of their salary anyway. They did not replace people who were working. They added to where normally we would have had volunteers that had to go outside and clean golf carts and whatnot. We had people with expertise that came over to run some of the online pro shop work, online setup of golf rounds. So we'd explained this thoroughly through FinCom. I don't have an exact number. Mr. Baruza may have a number of how many hours they were over there. Some of our library part-time staff, some of our full-time staffers who had light days at work stepped in because we needed additional bodies as a result of COVID and COVID precautions. It was not regular work normally done at Cedar Hill. But if Mr. Baruza has a number, that's fine. I do not have a number of hours specifically.
Okay, let me just say, Dr. Grimm, Victor would like to talk, if that's all right. You permit him to speak? All right, thanks. Victor, Victor Baruza, please bring him in. Identify yourself. He might be able to answer that question.
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Victor Baruza, Cedar Hill Golf Course. I don't have the exact numbers on the COVID situation as far as the library and the others that came in. I know someone had asked a lot of questions about what was going on with the DPW helping us out with some equipment. As far as number of hours, they spend very little time at the golf course, and generally Matt does it on his own outside of DPW hours. I do bring a couple pieces to the DPW every once in a while. It's generally a welding issue or a diesel issue, but it's very, very few hours. I generally handle everything on site by myself. But as far as the hours per department, each department held their own hours as far as the library and the other Park and Rec. Park and Rec actually did more than anybody else, but they were a big, big help. But I don't have exact hours on that. Each department kept their own hours.
It is generally expected, and I know the question is because it's an enterprise fund, but my team, it is generally expected that we are cross-trained and we work cross departments. And frankly, it's paid out of certain budgets because that's where they're allocated. But again, these were people who were otherwise not going to be working in their particular department that day and were available, and we certainly aren't going to pay people to sit home when we have work for them to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Mr. Anokian, is that any other question?
I guess that doesn't really answer the question, but if we don't have an answer to how many municipal employees, what departments, what hours of work, then I guess we don't have an answer. But thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Anokian. All right, we're going to move on. I do see Elliot Hanson put his hand back up. He's trying to, I don't know if you're trying to ask a question, Elliot. We'll try to bring him on more. Okay, well, we're trying to bring him in and allow him to speak. I recognize Peter Brown. He's next on the list. Mr. Brown, when you come in, please state your name and precinct number.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, thank you. Peter Brown, Precinct 2. My question, I'm a little confused on this particular article. Is it a request for additional monies to bring the golf course solvent? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm a little confused on that. Is there monies that need to be raised from some account to bring it so it's solvent, the actual department?
I think, Robin, did you want to answer that?
Sure, Mr. Brown. Every year, there has been a subsidy to the golf course from the general fund. That comes up in our general fund operating budget. This year, we have about 9,000 going over. Last year, it was listed at about 40,000. The year before, 60,000. It had been 90,000 in the past. We've been reducing that subsidy every year dramatically. This year, we reduced it by 75%. So it's nothing new that a funding goes over from the operating fund. What is new is how much less it is and the fact that it may actually be zero this year, but we have to budget based on last year's numbers. DOR makes us look at last year's numbers, so we can't zero it out totally. I'm hopeful that there will no longer be a subsidy, that the town has subsidized the golf course right along and has not been able to be self-sufficient. I do believe that this year it will be. That's just sort of pro forma, that 9,174. Last year, it ended up being around 61K, I believe, or 45K the year before, 61K. So it's been declining. I just wanted to take the opportunity to sort of point out that it has been declining and that the revenues are dramatically increasing.
And I'd like to say, Mr. Moderator, do I still have the floor?
Just one more question. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Well, it's not a question. I just wanted to make a statement follow up because I asked because it said.
Wait a minute, if you're going to do a statement, that's pro and con debate. That comes up later.
Oh, okay, that's
This
fine.
is just technical, non-debatable questions.
All right, so, well, the answer to my question, then this is eventually going away. Is that what I'm to understand? I mean, I know we've been talking about this for years. So the short answer to the fact that we're still subsidizing, but we're anticipating that that's not going to happen any longer.
I am very hopeful. I am very hopeful. We're certainly moving in that direction dramatically, 75% down this year, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Is Jim Garin? Bring in Jim Garin. This is still a period of technical questions, non-debatable. Jim Garin?
Jim Garin, Precinct 6.
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
Am I correct in looking at this Cedar Hill full cost enterprise fund accounting, but I don't see the additional cost for the capital equipment that's purchased for this. Why is that not shown?
Okay, who can answer him?
Bill may be able to address that more directly. We had those discussions during finance. The capital is
Okay, let's
typically
go
not
to,
included.
Robin, let's go to,
Mr.
Bill Rowe has his hand up. Go ahead, Bill Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Rowe, Town Accountant. So this is the Cedar Hill operating budget, not the capital articles. So this article just addresses the operating budget.
Bill, I understand that, but it says at the top of the page here, it says full cost enterprise fund accounting. And certainly we buy equipment for this thing here, but I don't see the equipment cost being lumped into this full cost accounting.
Well, they're only allowed, departments are only allowed to buy up to $10,000 worth of piece of equipment worth up to $10,000 out of their operating budget. Anything over 10, according to our bylaws, has to.
But why is the equipment not accounted for in the summary here?
Well, it's basically a summary. It's not a detailed. It's not a detailed budget ledger like we always have. But I'm sure Mr. Baruza could address, if he's spent any small equipment out of his operating budget. But it would have to be less than $10,000. We would question anything if they're buying a piece of equipment which is more than $10,000.
But it is a cost to the town for keeping this enterprise account going. The equipment.
Yes.
If somebody would, if the department were to borrow to buy a piece of equipment, then the annual cost of debt service would be a part of the operating budget. But yes, anything that we buy is obviously is a cost to the town. Sure.
I think it should be. I think it should be included in the enterprise fund accounting. Thank you very much.
And those are voted on separately as articles too. Any of that capital purchase, town meeting does vote, so you do see everything that is purchased.
I understand. I'm sorry. I may not be understanding what you're saying here. but it seems to me that if we are if the town is paying for equipment to be supplied to the golf course, that equipment should be part of the summary of what it costs the town.
Okay, let me, Victor Baruza has his hand raised. Victor, did you want to just quickly, if you can answer
Thank you, Mr.
Jaron's question?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Victor Baruza, Cedar Hill. That's not an annual purchase. This is more of this is an every 5-year capital purchase. If it was on our operating budget, that would mean you're buying $200,000 of equipment every year. We're not going to need that. It's an occasional situation based upon usage, wear, and safety.
In the end, yes, there is a cost to the town. The capital costs for our enterprise funds are calculated out separately. The enterprise fund is truly the operating budget. And as Mr. Baruza points out, those are not annual expenses, those types of large capital purchases. In some cases, we haven't purchased certain pieces of equipment in 30 years.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Garin?
Thank you, I give up.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Reggie Nunnally. Mr. Nunnally, when they bring you in, please state your name and precinct number.
My name's Reggie Nunnally, and I'm from Precinct 1.
Go ahead, sir.
What I'd like to know is the $9,000, approximately $9,000 in subsidy coming from the general fund. If in fact it's not needed, are those dollars returned to the general fund, or is it put into a reserve fund for the Cedar Hill golf course?
Cedar Hill does not have a separate reserve fund. I defer to Mr. Rowe as that actually comes back as free cash, but the enterprise fund does not have its own reserve.
Do you want Mr. Rowe to answer that?
Yeah, if Mr. Rowe wants to say specifically, I believe it ends up being free cash, but I'll defer to Mr. Rowe.
Okay, let's have him answer it. Go ahead, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, no, that's a good question. There is, when we go to balance the budget, set the tax recap form for the new fiscal year, there is what's called a calculated subsidy. So the calculated subsidy comes in based upon what the actual revenues are for fiscal 21 versus the budget for fiscal 22, because you can't estimate your 22 revenues higher than your actuals for fiscal 21. Now, this budget was prepared back in December and January. So at that time, we had estimated revenues, which are most likely going to be lower than the actuals for fiscal 21. But even though we have a calculated subsidy that may come in less than what town meeting budgets or votes for a subsidy, we still have to go for what's voted by town meeting. So in other words, even if the calculated subsidy, when we go to set the tax rate, comes in lower, we still have to send that $9,174 over to the enterprise fund because it was voted that way. And then that just becomes of the enterprise fund's free cash, or what's called retained earnings, at the end of fiscal 22.
But they can't, just for clarification, Bill, they can't hold that as a stabilization to use later.
No, it becomes part of the retained earnings, which is essentially a reserve. That's a reserve itself.
Okay, Mr. Nunnally, is any other questions?
So essentially, that subsidy actually really becomes a subsidy, even if the golf course doesn't need it.
Yes, it stays with the enterprise fund. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are we good, Mr. Nunnally?
Well, we're not good, but it's acceptable answer. Yes.
Well, that's why it's as low as it is. But again, I think we need to be clear on how that can be used, Bill. I mean, I think that may be.
Dr. Grimm, I think he answered the question.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that. Are you all set, Mr. Nunnally? I'm giving you an opportunity to ask one more question if you want it.
Nope, I'm good.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I see no more hands up. So let's move into pro and con debate. Anybody for pro and con debate? Give another couple of seconds to get your hand up. Pro and con debate going once, going twice. All right, debate has ended. No more speakers. So let's bring up the poll. It's time to vote. This is on Article 6 that appears on page 8. Article 6, page 8. And here's the poll. Please vote accordingly. You have 25 seconds. Please begin voting. All right, 25 seconds has exceeded. I do still see some votes coming in. I'll give it a couple more seconds. All right, let's close the poll and share the results. Okay, the results are 120, yes, 124, no, 13, abstentions, 2. Motion passes. All right, let's move on. We're now on Article 7. This is on page 10. And we'll have the FinCom read this is called Public Health Association Enterprise Fund Budget. If I could have a motion from Finance Committee, Bob Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Proposed motion that the town vote pursuant to the provision of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half, to appropriate the sum of $961,280 to fund the Stoughton Public Health Association enterprise for fiscal year 2022, with $526,034 to be raised for FY 2022 public health revenue and $435,246 to be transferred from Public Health Fund retained earnings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Cynthia Walsh seconded. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, Bob Desmond, can you read the Finance Committee report?
Finance Committee recommendation voted 14-0 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Cynthia Walsh, can you read the Municipal Operations report?
Municipal Operations voted 5-0 with 1 abstention to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a presentation? Anybody want to make a presentation? Okay. All right, seeing none. I do have a couple of people regarding the, we're in the period of technical questions, non-debatable. First up is Joseph Scardino. Bring in Mr. Scardino. When you come in, Joseph Scardino, please state your name and precinct number.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Joseph.
Joseph Scardino, precinct number 1.
Go ahead.
Through you to anyone who can answer the question. Does the revenue for this account, any of it come from CARES Act money?
Anybody answer that question? CARES Act money?
Considering that this department dispensed vaccines and had that staff those vaccines, and it seems to me a legitimate charge against CARES Act appropriations.
Janice Bruce has a hand up. Bill Rowe, did you want to go first?
No, I was just going to say that some of the expenses for 2020 and fiscal 21 were paid by CARES Act. I don't have an exact number, but various departments, police, fire, public health to some extent, I believe. Janice may know a little more.
All right, let's bring Janice Bruce in. Janice?
Hi, Janice Bruce, Director of Stoughton Public Health Association. So we did have some funding through the CARES Act for some related supplies, but public health actually received several of its own Board of Health grants specifically for supplies, surge staffing, COVID tracing activities, and some vaccine supplies. So we have been utilizing some other funds other than the CARES Act So it's actually through the Mass Association of Health Boards money. So I think we've gotten about, I think it's been like, we've been granted about $30,000.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Mr. Scardino.
Query, why didn't Public Health receive CARES Act money?
Again, your question, please?
Why did the Public Health Association not receive any CARES Act money?
Can anybody answer him?
I'd just like to say, I think the CARES Act money came in a huge amount, and I know that our town auditor was working on it, and some of the things were distributed, such as PPE and things like that, had gone through CARES Act, so I think it was bundled with other departments.
Okay. Did I answer your question, Mr. Scardino?
I don't think there's any further information available, but thank you.
You all set?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Rick Hill. Mr. Hill, when you come in, please state your name and precinct number, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rick Hill, Precinct 2. So I have a couple of quick questions. Number one, regarding the enterprise accounts, do we have a balance in retained earnings for each of the enterprise accounts at this point, or is there a schedule available? And this actually should be here in the book. I understand it changes, but.
You're looking for a balance? Bill Rowe, could you answer him on that?
Yeah, there's 5 different enterprise level accounts that have retained earnings, and I don't think there's probably much, if any, in the golf course, but certainly water, sewer, and.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
We're on public health.
Moderator. Yeah, this is from the Bureau of Accounts of the Division of Local Services of the Department of Revenue. They're our financial regulatory body, for those that don't know. And each year we send in a balance sheet and they certify free cash for the general fund and the enterprise funds. Enterprise funds, they also refer to those as retained earnings. So based upon the unaudited balance sheet submitted, I hereby certify the amount of available funds or free cash as of July 1st, 2020 for the town of Stoughton. For the general fund is $2,931,851. $2,931,851. For the Cedar Hill Golf Course Enterprise Fund, $70,268. For the Public Health VNA, $686,015, $686,015. For the Sewer Enterprise Fund, $481,081, $481,081. For the Water Fund, $955,896, $955,896. And for the Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund, $8,563, $8,563.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Mr. Hill?
Yeah, Mr. Rowe, is that the amount of the retained earnings that are appropriated to fill in their budgets for this year, or is that the total remaining balances and retained earnings that they have? In other words, public health is 686,015. That's the the number that's in the schedule on page 11, appropriate retained earnings, line 2.
Yes, all of the retained earnings were fully appropriated as part of the operating budgets. Nothing for
Okay,
capital.
so no residual there. All right.
No residual, right.
Just real quick. So I think that one of the previous speakers asked a pretty important question about the CARES Act and funding, and where is that all accounted for? So if the so I see Dr. Grimm ready to answer, but so shouldn't it be a footnote in each of these, either these articles or in the budgets, about what monies were received or where they went to, or an overall schedule? Here's how much money we got and here's where it went.
Our town auditor monitors all of that, and Susan can produce any document indicating that. In cases like public health, Ms. Bruce searched for other sources, and we had other sources and grant money coming in that she had access to. So in the case of that, she may have not utilized a lot of CARES money, but our fire department, police department for PPEs, for example, building maintenance facilities used a tremendous amount. The school department had, I think, 1.5 million of the 2.5 that went to CARES. Sue Herman keeps track of all that, plus our FEMA money associated with this. So we can get you a report. It is all calculated and held in the internal auditors. We basically reached out to all departments and said, what do you need? And Sue worked with the money that we had. And as I said, we sent 1.5 of the initial 2.5 over to the schools for their purchases as well.
So by department, there was a request, and then how much was given to them, and somewhere along the line it should tally up to all the money that the town received, right? And
Yes.
Sue Herman can produce that report for us.
Absolutely.
And can she make it available for town meeting?
I can see how quickly she can.
Yeah, we can get that online. That would be great.
She's on the other end of my phone through the whole thing, so I'm sure she's listening, and she will probably start working on it now.
She is magical, so we have great expectations.
So here it is. The deadline is December 31st, 2021, which means it's still being expended.
Yeah.
And,
so we should
and
show
you'll
what's
have a
been expended to this point, what has been expended, what's still remaining to be expended, and maybe what's anticipated to come now with some of the recent legislation passed by Congress.
Sure.
Anyways, it'd be good to have an accounting of that money. It's a lot of money.
All right, can we, you have a question, Rick?
All set. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're welcome. So Dr. Grimm, with the town meeting rep, he's looking for that report. You know, as soon as you can get year to date, it looks like totals. We can get it up on the virtual table. That'd be great.
Okay, and some is encumbered. We can show it's encumbered because we know we have some.
All the details, and there might be some questions on that, but please provide the information. That'd be excellent. Appreciate that. Next up
Moderator?
is, yes.
Mr. Moderator? Sorry, this is Bill.
Bill Rowe, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, so as of today, we, the allocation was $2,552,455. We've spent to date $1,844,971.08. That's the town and the schools. Schools is pretty much fully expended. The town, I believe, has some money left. In the total CARES account, we have $707,484 remaining.
Okay, but they still would like that report up online as soon as we can get it.
Sure. Yep.
I appreciate that very much. All right, next up is John Anzavino. Bring in John Anzavino, please. John, when you come in, please, as requested before, name and precinct number, please.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Thank you. John Anzavino, Precinct 4. I just wanted to make a point that in Article 7, 8, and 9, these enterprise funds, just to point out the fact, the estimated cost on these three are higher than what was actually being spent and what was voted on. And you will find the total on the next page of each article. You'll see what the total was. I just wanted to bring to light that these three enterprise funds were less than what was originally estimated. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, John. Next up is Robert Cohn. But I think his hand went down. Mr. Cohn, did you want to ask a question? Don't see him. Okay. All right. See no more hands up for technical debates, technical questions. Let's move on to pro and con debate. Anybody like to make a statement, pro or con, or comments? You have up to 3 minutes per speaker. Robert Cohn, I see your hand back up.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to say something.
I'd like to. Mr. Cohn, hang on a minute. Hang on. Let me just clarify. Are you asking a technical question, or we moved into pro and con? Are you asking?
I'm giving a statement.
That's fine. Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to thank, as a senior citizen in this town, the Stoughton visiting nurses for the outstanding job they did of taking care of the senior citizens during this COVID by making sure almost 90% of those people were vaccinated, going out to the cars and giving it to them. And on a personal note, I had 2 knees done this year, and I couldn't have been any more happier than the Stoughton visiting nurses. They were unbelievably efficient, and their their PT man had me on my feet within 2 or 3 weeks. So that's just a statement of saying, give them thumbs up. And also the police department and the fire department.
Okay,
and
Mr.
Sharon Police and
Mr.
Fire.
Combs, please, we're on Article 7, Public Health Association Enterprise Fund Budget. So stay focused on that, and I'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you all set?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Anybody else? Give it a couple more seconds. I see there are no more speakers. So we're ready to put this article to a vote. Can I have the poll for Article 7, Public Health Association Enterprise Fund Budget? Can we put that on the screen, please? The poll is before you, and it says Article 7, Public Health Association Enterprise Fund Budget. Please vote accordingly. You have 25 seconds. Okay, it's over 25 seconds. I see the numbers going up a little bit. Okay, 2 more seconds because I'm gonna end this poll. Let's end the poll and share the results, please. The results are yes, 140, no, 3, abstentions, 1. Motion passes. Thank you all. All right, let's turn the page. We're going to Article 8. That appears in our books, in the warrant books on page 12. The name of the article is Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget. I am looking for a motion from the Finance Committee. Mr. Bob Desmond.
Proposed motion that the town vote pursuant to the provision of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half to appropriate the sum of $7,414,878 to fund the sewer department for fiscal year 2022 with $91,782 to be raised and appropriated under Article 16, i.e. subsidized by the general fund, and that $7,323.96 to be raised from the FY 2022 sewer enterprise fund revenue.
Second. Let me just stop everything. I have a point of order from Elliot Hansen. Mr. Hansen, let's bring in Elliot Hansen. Did he put his hand down? Is it down? He has a point of order? Yeah, Elliot Hansen. Let's bring in Elliot Hansen. He has a point of order. It's in the chat. Can someone read it to me? I'm looking at some other. All right, Elliot Hansen, unmute yourself. I believe you're unmuted. We have in the chat, Elliot says he has a point of order. Elliot, okay, I believe he said never mind. Is that correct? His hand's back up. He's having problems, probably technical problems. Elliot, you can just start talking. It looks like you're unmuted. We'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay. All right, I believe we left off with the motion and there was a second. Could you just clarify who seconded that motion? Nobody? Do I have a second on that motion? Seconded by Steve Cavey. Can I have Bob Desmond? Can I have the Finance Committee report?
Finance Committee voted 12-2 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you, Bob. Municipal Operations, Cynthia Walsh. If you're able to read that. Is your microphone on? I'll read that for you, Cynthia. I don't believe your microphone was on. Municipal Ops voted 5-0-1, 5-0 with one abstention to recommend the town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion. All right, do we have a presentation by the town manager, Board of
No
Selectmen?
no presentation.
No presentation, that's fine. Okay, now we open it up to period of technical questions, non-debatable. Anybody have their hand raised? We see Mr. Lugito. Please bring in Mr. Lugito, and Lou, when you come in, please state your name and precinct number, please.
Lugito, Precinct 4. I guess my question is, what is the reason for the swing from a little bit of a surplus in the actual 2020 budget and the deficit that's shown here of almost $92,000 in 2022?
Okay, can we have an answer to that from somebody?
I believe Mr. McNulty has his hand up, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, Mr. McNulty, can we bring in Mr. Phil McNulty? I guess you can just start speaking. I see you're unmuted. Phil McNulty, are you able to converse with us? Okay, well, we're trying to resolve his issue. Is there somebody that can answer that question from the town side? I see Ed Trumfield just came online.
You want me to speak or you want Phil?
No, Ed, no, that's
Can I be
okay.
heard?
No.
Can I be heard now?
Is that Phil? Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just gonna say that the overall budget has increased by 3.78%.
Oh, excuse me, Phil, this is the moderator. Could you just state your name and your position in town so people at home and also town meeting reps to know who you are?
Yes, I apologize. Phil McNulty, Water and Sewer Superintendent.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, the overall increase in budget is 3.78%, and about 3.24% of that is directly from the MWRA increase in the expense line of close to 250,000. The rest of the budget is about a 0.5% increase. So that's it in general terms.
If I might, MWRA was really impacted by COVID because the ratio of what our numbers look like are dependent on cities like Boston. So when Boston's usage drops off significantly, it gets dispersed. So a lot of that's out of our control.
Thank you very much.
You okay, Lou?
Yes, I am. I appreciate the answer.
All right, thank you very much, Lou. Next up is Joseph Soers. Joe Soers. Joe, we'll give you a couple more seconds. Unmute yourself, Joe. Click on the microphone to unmute. You're unmuted, Joe. Go ahead. Name and precinct number.
I'm sorry, my name shouldn't be up there. I apologize.
No problem, Joseph. Just, can you put your hand down? Or
Sure
whatever?
can.
Thank you very much. All right. We're still in the technical questions, non-debatable. I don't see any other hands. Anybody see any hands? I don't see anybody. Okay, confirmation on that. We're going to move into pro and con debate. Anybody have any statements or pro or con? Elliot Hanson's having some issues. Yes, go ahead and try to call him. He's asked us not to move on, but we're not gonna be able to hold up the whole process here.
Maybe if he had a question, he could type it in, Mr. Moderator?
Good point, Dr. Grimm. Ellie, can you type in a question? Or your point of order, if you have a point of order? Because we're gonna have to move on. We'll give you a couple more, we'll give you 10 seconds, then we're gonna move on. All right, let's move on. I see no other people raising their hands. We're gonna, so the debate is ending, no more speakers. Do I hear something out there? Nope. I'm just gonna, someone's in contact with Mr. Hanson, let me give him a couple more, he's all set? He's all set, all right. So no more speakers on this article. We're gonna move to vote. Can we bring up the poll? This is for Article 8, Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget. Bring up the poll for Article 8, please. There we have the poll before you. Article 8, Sewer Department Enterprise Fund Budget. Please start voting now. All right, a couple more seconds. I know we're over 25 seconds. Let's get your votes locked in there, everybody. All right, let's end the poll and share the results.
132 yes, 13 no, 1 abstention.
All right. Yes, 132, no, 13, abstentions, 1. Motion passes. All right, we're on to Article 9. That appears in our warrant books on page 14. Article 9, Water Department Enterprise Fund Budget. I saw Mr. Trumfield.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Do hear you. Do you want to make the motion for us?
Sure. I'd like to thank Mr. Desmond for stepping in my absence. Had a long night at the office tonight. Okay, proposed motion for the Water Department Enterprise Fund. That the town vote pursuant to the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 44, Sections 53F and a half, to appropriate the sum of $5,201,531 for the Water Department Enterprise Fund budget for the Water Department for the fiscal year 2022, with $4,820,975 to be raised from the FY22 Water Department Enterprise revenue and $380,556 to be transferred from the Water Department Enterprise Fund retained earnings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Steve Cavey. All right, Ed, you want to read the Finance Committee report?
Yes, the Finance Committee voted 14-0 to recommend approval to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Municipal Operations, Cynthia Walsh, can you read your report?
Municipal Operations voted 5-0 with 1 abstention to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you. Okay, is there a presentation from town manager or anybody? Nope, no presentation. Okay, we're gonna move right into a period of technical questions, non-debatable. So I see any hands raised. I see Joe Soers. I believe is that an error, Joe?
That's an error. I'm sorry, Bobby.
That's okay, Joseph, no problem. I'm gonna just assume, unless you speak up, I'm gonna assume that's just a sort of like a typo, okay? All right, I see no other hands up for technical questions, non-debatable. Let's move into the pro and con debate. Any hands raised for pro and con debate? I see none. Anybody see any hands? I see none. Okay. Let's move right on to voting on this article. Can we have the poll raised for Article 9, the Water Department Enterprise Fund budget? You see the poll in front of you? Please begin voting now. This is for the Water Department Enterprise Fund budget. A couple more seconds. Okay, let's end the poll and share the results.
137 yes, 5 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, the results are yes, 137, no, 5, abstentions, 0. Are we okay with everything? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so that motion passes, yes, 137, no, 5, abstention, 0. All right, we're moving on. We move to Article 10, Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund. Mr. Fitzgerald, are you on?
I'm using my web browser because
Elliot?
Oh, look at this. Something's happening here.
I see Article 14 up, the poll 14. Okay, I don't know who did that. All right, we're moving on to page 16, Article 10. I just want to ask for Mr. Fitzgerald, are you there?
I am, Mr. Moderator.
Could you take that over? I just want to recuse myself from Article 10.
Go
Just
right
ask
ahead, Mr. Moderator.
Yep, you can ask Mr. Trumfield to read the motion for us.
Mr. Trumfield, would you please read the proposed motion?
Yes, the motion for Article 10, Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund. That the town vote in accordance with the revisions of General Laws, Chapter 44, Sections 53F and 1/2, to appropriate the sum of $388,000 to fund the Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund for FY '22, with $379,437 to be raised from the FY '22 Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund revenue and $8,563 to be transferred from the Cable Public Access Enterprise Fund retained earnings.
Thank you. Do we have a second on the motion? Who made that second?
Steve Cavey, Mr. Deputy
Cavey,
Moderator.
thank you. Mr. Trumfield, can you read the Finance Committee, how they voted, please?
Yes, the Finance Committee voted 14-0 to recommend approval to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you, Mr. Trumfield. Representative from Intergovernmental Relations, can you read how the vote went for your committee? Is there a chair from Intergovernmental Relations?
Dick, I'm just going to jump in. Why don't you read it for them?
I will read it. Intergovernmental Relations voted 5-0 to recommend a town meeting as set
All right,
forth in the proposed motion.
There's a point of order from John Zavino.
Where's that from?
John Anzavino.
Okay, Mr. Anzavino? Mr. Anzavino, you have a point of order? Mr. Anzavino?
Do you have a point of order?
Somebody has to unmute him.
Can someone let in Mr. John Anzavino into the panel so he can unmute himself and speak?
Is he in? Or has he been allowed in?
We'll see him, just trying to, no, go ahead, Mr. Fitzgerald. Oh, he's
Yeah,
in.
Mr.
There he is.
Fitzgerald, thank
There he
you.
is, go ahead.
I had already responded. They fixed the point. They had the wrong article up. They already took care of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anzavino, for bringing that forward. Okay, we now enter into, technical and non.
You got muted.
Mr. Deputy Moderator, you're muted.
Sorry about that. We now enter into technical and non-debatable questions. Are there any hands raised? Anybody want to be heard on this?
I have nothing here, Mr. Deputy
I don't see
Moderator.
any hands raised. We'll move on to pro-con debates. Any hands raised for this?
Not as of yet.
Having none? Okay, let's move on for a vote. Can we show the poll on this, please, for the vote? Thank you. The poll is up for the vote for Article 10. And voting starts now. Do you have the poll? Is the poll up?
Yes, the poll is up.
Can't see it?
Okay. Okay. Can you read the results from?
The results are, the poll is completed. The results, yes, 134, no, 11.
Thank you.
Abstention, 2. Passes.
134.
134, 11 no, 2 abstentions. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fitzgerald, I'll resume.
I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Moderator, with pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Appreciate your time.
Not a problem.
That concludes Article 10. Let's move on to Article 11. That's on page 18 of the warrant books. And it reads authorization of revolving funds and annual expenditure limits. And that's a Finance Committee motion. Mr. Ed Trumpio? You're muted, sir.
All right, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay. Proposed motion for Article 11. Move that the town vote to approve Article 11 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Steve Cavey. Okay, Ed Trumpio, can you read the Finance Committee report?
Finance Committee voted 14-0 to recommend approval to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Municipal Operations Report, Cynthia Walsh.
Municipal Operations voted 6 5-0 with one abstention to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
All right, we have a hand up, Mr. John Anzavino. Is that
Thank
a
you,
point
moderator.
of order?
No,
Oh, a technical question?
we were into the, technical,
Okay, just hang on a minute. Let me ask if there's a presentation for us. Any presentation that we know of? Town side? Dr. Grimm there?
No, these are just, new additions, pretty
Okay.
self-explanatory.
No problem. Thank you very much. Mr. Anzavino, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Anzavino, Precinct 4. And I just want to make sure this gets clarified, because as you know, there was a lot of back and forth on this. And my understanding is these funds exist. This is actually just putting these charts into the book under, 42.1 and 42.2. And the question I have is, first, I'd like to make sure that that is the case, because the funding is already there. It was voted in at the last town meeting, it was authorized. And my question is, the top chart, which you actually see here in the motion, indicates this fund is a Board of Health stormwater and a Board of Health compost rain barrel. And the chart they put in your book on page 18, the second chart does not list it as a Board of Health stormwater or a Board of Health compost rain barrel. There is a Board of Health, and I just want to be clear what's actually going in. Do they have to be the same title or not?
Okay, let me see if I can get some answer for you, John. You know? Robin Grimm, would you know an answer to that? Dr. Grimm?
No, I would defer to legal counsel, as to whether that designation, makes a difference. It's clearly stormwater and compost rain barrel funding is outlined in the definitions. So I would defer to, Ms. Goldberg if there's a concern
Sure.
about.
Let me ask town council.
Mr. Moderator, through you, to the extent that it's clear what these entities, these funds are being referred to, I don't think it has to be exactly the same. Certainly, it could be revised to make them match, so to speak. But I don't think it has to.
If I might, Mr. Tisdale is also reaching out to me. The compost rain barrel is not a Board of Health function. That actually should not be on there. I believe that's conservation, actually. The stormwater is it should just say stormwater, and it should just say compost and rain barrel. I'm not sure why Board of Health is there. It looks like it carried over from the one above.
So is it clear that, from the moderator asking the question, is it clear that's a typo then?
As far as I'm concerned, yes.
Okay,
I don't know legally how that works, but from our standpoint, that's a typo.
it's okay, we just cross
Thanks,
that out.
Mr. Anzavino.
Friendly amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Anzavino. Town council, do we have to vote on that friendly amendment?
Just description.
Just for clarification and legalities, that's a friendly amendment to cross out Board of Health compost rain barrel and just keep compost rain barrel. As a friendly amendment, I'm gonna ask for a show of hands so we can get through this article. All those in favor of voting yes on that friendly amendment, please raise your hand now. That's interesting. My screen's gone a little crazy here. Stephanie, can you record this vote when we get the, how many total hands do we have up? Okay. All right, let's give them 10 more seconds because raised hands takes a little longer. All right, let's record that vote. 115, yes.
Not what I have,
What do you have?
when I last looked at it.
Well, it's moving.
Right.
Right, the last time I looked at it.
When you called, it was 150.
What's it now, Mark?
187, 105.
Oh, it's going down? 115, okay. We'll take 115. Point.
Test.
Record. All right, take your hands down. Can we move those hands? If we can remove those hands, lower the hands, lower the hands. Okay, all those opposed, raise your hands now. Oh. Well, only two. All right, all those opposed, raise your hand. All those opposed. Okay, anybody recording this? Yeah. All right, if there's any hands raised, lower them. And we'll take abstentions. If you abstain, please raise your hand now. Okay, that voting is over. Can we have the results, please?
115 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
The amended motion passes. Yes, 115, no 1, 1 abstention. So we go back to the Article 11. Authorization of revolving funds and annual expenditure limits. Okay, so we have a point of order. Whose point of order? Who's up there? Mark Semany, you have a point of order? Please state your name and precinct number.
I do, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Semany, Precinct 1. My question is, in Article 11, are we voting just the language? Or are we voting the language and the spending limits that are in place here?
We're voting on we're voting on the whole article with the revised piece in there. I'm gonna have town council, if you can just clarify that for me.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. There's two pieces to this. One is to amend the bylaw to add two new funds to the bylaw, which is required under that new amendment to Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, relatively new. And then the bottom part is to change the expenditure limits, or for the two that are shown. And we included the chart because we did last year and people wanted the chart.
Thank you, Madam Council. So what we're voting is the language first, and then just the stormwater and the compost drain barrel numbers, correct?
Exactly. Those, just the two that are in bold, are the changes to the numbers. We voted last year that these expenditure limits will continue from year to year until they're changed. So as I understand it, none of them are being changed except for the stormwater and compost will be new.
Yes. No, thank you. So just for the town meeting representatives, we'll be voting on the language plus $52,300 in total, correct?
Well,
As limits,
correct,
as
yes.
limits. Yeah, thank you.
Is that all, Mr. Zemanian? Was that your point?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. We're going back to period of technical questions, non-debatable. I see Mr. Lugito's hands up. Mr. Lugito, please bring him in.
Question on the,
Just state your name and.
Lugito Precinct 4, sorry about.
Thank you. That's okay. Thank you very much.
Just a question on the spending limits. Could you tell me what the Conservation Commission amount of money that they take in on an annual basis, or how much above the $50,000 they have?
Okay, can anybody answer Mr. Gito? Dr. Grimm?
Maybe Mr. Rowe would know that.
Sure, Bill Rowe, whoever can answer him. Mr. Rowe, are you on?
Mr. Moderator, I'll have that for just a moment.
Sure, all right, let's take a moment. We'll do an official pause.
Few technical issues here. Let me try to reconnect. Oh, here we go. Okay. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I thought this would be an easy question.
That's okay. It's a question that they should have the answer for.
Mr. Moderator, John Anzavino from the Finance Committee.
Yes, John, could you help us out here?
Oh, yeah,
Mr. Mo-
when we were going through this, I believe it was in the vicinity of $66,000 that the balance was there.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Bill Rowe.
previous speaker's question, I believe, was how much do they take in? Fiscal 19, they took 8,247. Fiscal 20, 8,947. And fiscal 21, 4,890.
Thank you.
You all said, Mr. Gito?
I am.
Well, thank you very much. All right. Next up is Mr. Richard Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald, please. When you mute yourself, please state your name.
Oh,
and please number.
I apologize, Mr. Moderator, that was left up in there.
Oh, that's okay, Mr. Fitzgerald, no problem. Mr. John Anzavino, I see your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, thank you. John Anzavino, Precinct 4. And I have to disagree that we're voting limits on this. In June of 20, both the stormwater and the compost rain barrel were on the town meeting warrant for these limits, 50 and 23, the 50,000 and the 2,300. Now, unless that didn't get voted, that was a motion put forth by James Conlon, the environmental officer. I thought these were voted in June, and as the attorney has stated, that was voted to continue these unless they were changing, and these are not changing. It's my understanding all we're doing is voting to have these charts added in to the bylaw under section 42.1 and 42.2 as shown in the book. I don't believe we're authorizing any funding. It's not changing from what was voted last June.
Mr. Moderator?
All right, I'm going to ask for clarification from Town Council Lauren Goldberg. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you. Okay, so I just want to kind of double back. A revolving fund does not involve the appropriation of any money by town meeting. What it does is it authorizes the money collected from these programs to be spent on those programs. So essentially, it is a spending limit. For one reason or another, this did not make it into the bylaws, and so this article will amend the bylaws for that purpose. And to the extent that a community, one of these entities, let's say the compost and rain barrel, doesn't collect $2,300, they can't spend that much anyway. So that this is just limiting the amount that they can spend if they collect up to that amount. And Mr. Moderator, just one comment. For the bylaw, in the first part, 42-1, where we deleted Board of Health, we should have inserted Conservation Commission. So I would suggest that because that's really the other half of what you already voted, that you don't need to do that again separately, but you could just mention it for the final vote.
Okay, how do I go about mentioning for the final vote?
I think you just say with the words Board of Health deleted and the Conservation Commission inserted.
Under the rain barrels. Go ahead, Lauren Goldberg. So under the rain barrels, we're gonna put in
We're, in the first, there's two charts here. In the
the
top
top
chart,
one,
we
yep,
deleted the words
Board of Health, yes.
And we're just going to insert the words Conservation Commission.
Okay, in the block there, above compass / rain barrel, we're gonna put in Conservation Commission.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anybody have any problems with that? I don't have a problem with that, I got through that. That's gonna be the complete, change in that article.
Well,
Any other technical questions?
Is
Stormwater
is
is under-
stormwater management under conservation?
No, under Board of Health.
Hearing no other, technical questions, let's move into the period of pro and con debate.
It's under Board of Health, you already said it.
I'll give you a couple of 5,
No.
10 seconds if you want to raise your hands and get into pro and con debate.
You know,
I don't see any hands going up. Oh, I do see one. Joseph Scardino. This is for pro and con debate. Can we bring in Joe Scardino, please?
Yes, Joe Scardino, Precinct 1, Mr. Moderator. Through you to Town Council, we just took a vote to change the language. So the official vote would be in those two boxes above to cross out the words Board of Health in both places. So
No,
the
just in
official
the,
record
just above,
vote,
Joseph, just above the second box down, just above compost / rain barrel.
And stormwater as well. It should be in, the stormwater is its own category.
right. My point is the Town Council said we did not have to take a vote when the moderator asked the question. We already voted on changing those names. That's an amendment that's already been voted on in the record. I think for purposes of clarity, we should have another vote as a friendly amendment, as the moderator aptly put it, and so that we have a proper vote of record, changing that from what the previous amendment changed it to the actual Conservation Commission, as I understand the change in wording.
Mr. Moderator, through you.
Go ahead.
I just want to make clear, the reason that we need to have the name of the commission or the Board of Health listed is because that is the entity that's authorized to spend the money. So those names or those boards, it's the Board of Health can spend the stormwater, and the Conservation Commission, if we do the amendment that Mr. Scardino suggested, would be above compost and rain barrel, and the Conservation Commission would be able to spend that money. So we really do need to make sure that a board or committee is named or official as the authority to expend the money under these different funds.
Thank you. So we're going to have a vote, Mr. Moderator?
Well, let me ask my town council here. What's our recommendation here?
I mean, I would just vote to insert Conservation Commission.
How about the top box?
I think that has to be left as.
Dr. Grimm said otherwise.
I'm under the impression that it's not, if Mark Tisdale is on, he may clarify that. I thought that it was separate stormwater, but I may be wrong.
What, health stormwater to the first one? This one up here.
We have something here.
All right, just stand by for a moment. We're just gonna get clarifications.
Yeah.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes. Scott, is it? Scott, please
Yeah.
identify yourself and precinct number.
Stormwater should be under engineering, not Board of Health or Conservation. Engineering is in charge. Mark Tisdale is the only one who can get that permit granted to him. Board of Health doesn't have that strength, neither does Conservation. It should be, engineering should be where stormwater is.
Okay, so I need someone to make the friendly amendment, the motion. I need a town meeting rep to make that.
I'll make
Well-
that. I'm a town meeting rep.
Scott, Mr. Carrara, thank you
Yeah.
for your support here. Go ahead, sir.
To insert the word, engineering department above stormwater. That way they'll be the ones to be able to expend that, right, Dr. Grimm?
Second,
Excuse me if I may.
Sure, town council, go ahead.
We also need to insert the Conservation Commission above the compost rain barrel.
I'll add that too in, Rob, Lauren.
Thank you so much.
Okay, are we good for everything? Okay, that was a motion. Is there a second?
second,
Seconded by Lou Gito. All right, any discussion? Seeing none? I will call for a raised hand vote. All those in favor of that motion, please raise your hand now. We're going on the vote. Could someone count the hands for me, please? All right, do we have a count? Okay, 114. Lower the hands, please. Please lower your hands. I see all hands lowered now, I believe. Please lower your hands. Some people are raising their hands. I didn't call for the vote yet, so please lower your hands. Okay, all those opposed, raise your hand now. You raise your hand to say no. Do you see any hands over there? Zero. Okay, abstentions? Raise your hand now for abstention. Okay, I don't see any either. Zero. Motion passes 114 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. And we should record that. Town clerk recorded that. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, that was a friendly amendment? Oh, that was a,
That's amendment, now let's move forward.
okay, now we go back to Article 11, the whole,
As amended.
as amended, Article 11, authorization of revolving funds and annual expenditure limits, as amended. Can we put the poll up? I should say, let me stop with the poll. I don't think we asked, did I ask for any pro-con debate? No. Any pro and con debate? Give you a couple more seconds to raise your hand if you want to get into debate. All right, Joyce Scardino, let's bring in Joyce Scardino, and please, Joyce, when you enter the panel, please state your name and precinct number. You can go ahead and start talking, Joyce. Just unmute yourself. I see you muted again.
I'm trying to.
Let's see. I see Joyce. Okay, Joyce is down. Richard Parolin, you have your hand raised. Go ahead and speak. You're muted. Richard Parolin, Go ahead and speak. Your microphone's unmuted, so you should be able to speak right now. Okay, 2 more seconds, Mr. Perlin. Okay, I'm assuming that's just an error. All right, I see no further debate. No pro and con debate, we're done. We're gonna move for the poll. Article 11, as amended, authorization of revolving funds and annual expenditure limits. We have the poll for Article 11, please. You see the poll before you. Article 11, authorization of revolving funds and annual expenditure limits. Please vote now. I was muted. Let's end the poll. Yep, go ahead.
129 yes, 2 noes, 0 abstentions.
All right, motion passes. I'll say once again, yes, 129 yes, no, 2, 0 abstentions. Motion passes. All right, so that's Article 11. Let's move on. All hands are down. Let's see if we can move on to another article, Article 12. It is 10:15 p.m. I'm hoping we can get to this one. Article 12, collective bargaining, SPAEA, S-P-A-E-A. This is the FENCOM. Ed Trumpfield, or actually, Robin, did you want to make this motion? Usually it's FENCOM.
No, FinCom can make the motion. I'll just present it.
Okay. Ed Trumpfield, please make the motion on Article 12.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, proposed motion that the town vote to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Stoughton Professional Administrative Employees Union for the fiscal years 21 through FY 23, and to fund the cost of items of the first fiscal year under Article 16 of this annual town meeting and implement said collective bargaining agreement.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mark Zemanian. All right, can I have Ed Trumpfield, can I have the Finance Committee report, please?
Finance Committee voted 12-2 to recommend approval to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you. Mr. Zemanian, you gave me Otis Johnson's name. Is that a point of order or? Oh, hands down. Okay, no problem. All right, at this time, I'd like to see a presentation, have a presentation by Dr. Grimm.
Yeah, very briefly.
10 minutes.
This will be very brief. There aren't a huge number of changes. This group accepted a 1.5% increase, 1 year, 1.5 in 1920 that this body voted on. This is part of all of the efforts that we've made in every contract to remove references to the 2.5% grid. As you know, the town had a 2.5% grid where people got automatic raises every year for the first 10 years, and then it was continued into perpetuity. So part of the problem is when that's already guaranteed, there's no negotiating to do on giving and taking back. And then when you hit tough times, you don't have the latitude to go below that 2.5 because it's already sort of pre-ordained. So as with all of our groups and with every other group that you have voted, we have eliminated the 2.5% grid. There are no longer any 2.5% raises. As I said, this group in 1920 took a 1.5. And they were off the grid, so the only automatics had been a 1.5 for people of less than 10 years into 21. What we negotiated was that the first year of this agreement, which is the current year we're in, would be a 2.5 for all. Some had already received a 1.5, so it was a net difference of 1%. For others, it was a 2.5. And then in the next year's budget, it's a 1.75% and another 1.75. For their increases were 2.5, 1.75 and 1.75. The 1.75s are, basically in conjunction, if not a little bit lower than what a lot of surroundings are doing right now with collective bargaining. We are also happy that they agreed to have any references to any grids removed, so all raises become negotiable going forward. This group will sit down and go with me down the road to create a new classification system like we have done with library dispatch and DPW. A little more complicated because their salaries is sort of all over the map. The current budget that we're in will absorb $28,738 for this total for this year at 2.5. That is currently accounted for in our current budget. Next year, the impact is $34,000 for these employees, and the following year it's $36,600. All of that is very affordable. If you see some of these employees, you will notice that some of them look like they have 3 or 4% raises, and we have the same thing with Thea. That is because in some cases, people got zeros. So if they had more than 10 years, they had received a zero in the first year, which is the current year. And next year, we'll show some compounding of last year's and this year. So it would appear that they're getting like a 3.5% raise, but they're not. It's a 1.75 on top of the 2.5 that we owe retroactively. So overall, the fiscal impact for each of the years is 28,734 and 36,600. The budget that you are looking at this year accounts for that. We did not put a separate labor line item like we did last year. That seemed to create more confusion. It was built into the salaries to some degree. Obviously, we couldn't say exactly what we had built in because that would take away the power of negotiating. But I do want to be clear that, again, 2.5, 1.75, and 1.75. In trade for getting them off that grid, long-term employees got an extra week of vacation. They had already had that week, but it was simply written as a date of after anybody hired 1986 or before. That date never caught up. So basically, if you had worked here 40 years, you weren't eligible. The spirit of it was supposed to be after so many years. We corrected that. We recalculated a little bit how they calculate earned sick time. But basically, this was just a numbers agreement primarily. That's it.
I was muted. All right, so we're entering the period of technical questions, non-debatable. I see Pat Colburn. Please bring Pat Colburn in. And then when you're in, please state your name and precinct number, please.
Thank you. Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. I did find these on the virtual table, and again, it just would have been nice if we could have gotten them in print. It's a little difficult to juggle back and forth, but I actually have a 3-part question that I think will be simple, and I did read through the MOAs. Does anyone in this union get any extra COVID pay? Did all the employees work during COVID? And can this union reopen this article based on other contracts? Like, I forget what we called it, the...
Reopener. They have a
Thank you.
reopener clause. Yeah, so first of all, this group did not get any extra COVID pay. The jobs weren't considered particularly hazardous. We only, actually, it was only in police departments that we did that particularly. So and that was out of CARES money. They did not get COVID pay. Everybody did work through the pandemic. Some people did work from home. We have people who are on these meetings who worked from home right through. We had split shifts, Team A and Team B for many of our staff. People were in every other day, but the days they were not in, they were working from home. I will tell you this group particularly because of the level and type of work they do, quite often they were able to work from home. These are engineers, for example, counseling people who were doing virtual work. And so basically everybody did continue to work. And I know that there's always been a little bit of a discussion of when people are working home, how much are they working? And I certainly can't monitor it the same way, but I will tell you that every department remained operational. Every department under the leadership, these in some cases are leadership positions, did remain operational. So everybody did continue to work. They did not get COVID or hazardous pay. They just continued to get regular pay. Their 1.5 had a reopener. The only reopener in this contract is that if I were to give my non-unions any more than what they got, they could have a reopener. So basically SPEA and the non-unions are tied. I agreed to tie the non-unions and agree that if I gave non-unions for whatever reason more than SPEA got, SPEA would get a reopener. But I typically will not give non-union more than I'm giving labor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question, Pat?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is John Anzavino.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Anzavino, Precinct 4. Just to go back on the virtual table, the MOA is the same thing we had seen before. It's a red line version, and it's unsigned by anybody. Has it actually been ratified?
Yes, it has.
Okay, and the previous contract that we had that ran through the end of FY '20 was also unsigned. Has that been finalized? Or?
Yeah, that was signed. I think that was in its final form with the attorneys, just to ensure all the language is accurate. But that 1920 was incorporated into the prior contract, so that is the last contract. These changes would then be incorporated into that.
All right, I know the contract we got wasn't signed, and neither was the MOA, so just checking. Thank you.
And I assure you, Mr. Anzavino, you are absolutely right. This has been a problem. We are pulling that book together. Now that I've negotiated all 8 of these, going forward, this is my first round. We will have signed copies in the book, so that when you ask for them, you will get a signed copy.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Grimm. That okay, John?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator, and hopefully they'll get posted online too, so people can see them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Reginald Nunnally. Please bring Reginald Nunnally in, and Mr. Nunnally, please state your name and precinct number.
Reggie Nunnally, Precinct 1. This appears to be pretty much a done deal. I'm just curious, what would happen if this body voted not to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the town and the Stoughton Professional Administrative Employees Union?
I would defer to legal counsel on that, typically. On something like that, I guess the process would force everybody back to a table. And you're voting typically that it can be funded. So I would defer to legal on how that would work.
Okay, Robin, you asked for legal counsel to step in?
Yeah, I haven't seen it happen, so.
Could you repeat the question for Dr. Grimm?
Yeah, the question was if town meeting didn't vote for this, Mr. Nunnally was asking what would happen. I mean, there is enough money in this year's budget for it, but that doesn't answer the question.
That's correct. If town meeting determines that it does not want to fund the first fiscal year cost items of the contract, the parties would have to go back to negotiations.
Joe's having problems.
I couldn't hear. Can you just repeat that, counsel?
Certainly. If the town meeting doesn't approve funding the cost items of the first fiscal year, then the parties would have to go back to negotiations. The money that was in the accounts to cover those expected or anticipated costs would remain in the account, but it would not have made the contracts binding on the town or on the union.
Thank you.
Okay, is that clear enough for everybody? Mr. Nunnally, are you all set?
I'm all set. No, I was just curious.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is George Stalinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. George Stalinsky, Precinct 2. Looking at the chart, I printed it out, and I've noticed there's some positions that are listed in red in various grades. And there's some positions that are crossed out, such as in grade 8, you crossed out the registered nurse, but that does not appear anywhere else on the listing that I see. There's also a recreation director that was in section or grade 8, crossed out, and then crossed out again in grade 10. Where are these people going?
Okay, so the nurse's position no longer exists. The recreation director was a position that it was negotiated that once the last person left, it would no longer be in the union. The same as the veteran services director, though he is still there. In some cases, there were errors in where they were, and we were cleaning up some language. I can tell you the Assistant Building and Zoning Commissioner position no longer exists. It's been retitled Code Enforcement Manager, so you see that correction. There is no longer a Council on Aging Director. There are program administrators. So some of these positions came out, some of it was cleanup language. The Assistant Treasurer Collector was a proposal the union had made that did not go through. The Director of Public Health and VNA, she is no longer in the labor union. She's now an executive director. So in some of these cases, these people came out of the union as part of negotiations. And you'll see the town accountant, for example, when Mr. Rowe leaves, not that we want him to, but when he does, that position will come out of a union as well. So some of this was cleanup language, but the positions didn't disappear. They just either were moved out of unions, or in some cases, yes, one of the registered nurses positions no longer exists.
Okay, well, that answers it. They're a little confusing as to seeing where some of these things are in, some are out.
Yeah.
I just wondered, no explanation given, so that's why.
A lot of that was house cleaning language. Mhm.
Right. I'm glad you're cleaning house.
We're cleaning house. Can't have it dirty.
Are you all set, George?
Yes, sir, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delinsky. Next up is Joe Soers. I don't know if this is an error, or we'll ask Joe if he wants to ask a technical question. Give him a couple seconds to get in there. We can move Joe Soers in. Joe, just unmute yourself. Okay, while we're waiting for Joe, Sylvia Whiting. Can we move her in? And Sylvia, when you're been moved into the panel, if you can unmute yourself and state your name and precinct number, please.
Hi, it's Sylvia Whiting, Precinct 6.
Go ahead.
This looks like a strictly longevity type of increase. Is there any merit part of these increases? Performance evaluations conducted and all of that?
So these, we didn't actually address longevity itself. They have longevity pay separate. We've moved that out of many of ours. We have removed that automatic 2.5 that did go with you're just here and you get a 2.5. These are just traditional cost of living increases at 2.5, 1.75, and 1.75. These are not in addition to any steps. This is exactly flat out what they get. We did not, what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry, I'm tired.
Is there any performance evaluation system?
Yeah,
or is it
so
strictly-
we are working toward town-wide performance evaluations. I have an HR task force that has put together some evaluation tools. Anytime we implement performance evaluations into labor unions, we actually have to negotiate those evaluations. The unions will sit down with us. So we actually have a group under Deanna Chatsko right now that is creating performance evaluations for all town employees. We typically with labor unions cannot give merit raises. Labor unions do not agree to merit raises. It's all or nothing with labor. And it becomes very hard for me to do that even with non-labor when labor unions don't get merit. However, performance evaluations would allow for progressive discipline in a far better way so that we're at least knowing that we're getting full performance. But we don't typically give a merit.
Okay, thank you.
Are you all set, Sylvia? Okay, I believe so. All right, any other hands raised for technical questions? Seeing none, let's move into period of pro and con debate. Give you a couple of seconds to put up your hands if you want to have pro and con debate or make any statements. Seeing none, it's time to bring this article to a vote. This is Article 12, Collective Bargaining, SPARE, S-P-A-E-A. It's on page 20. Can we present the poll, please, for Article 12? Okay, the poll is before us. Please start voting now. Okay, about 5 more seconds. All right, let's end the poll and present the results. Share the results, please.
Yes, 121, no, 5, abstain 2.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. All right. So motion passes, 121 yes, 5 no, abstentions 2.
If I could, I'd just like to thank everybody for their support of our fine employees. We have a great team.
Thank you, Dr. Grimm. All right, the time is now 10:35 PM.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Moderator,
All right, before we take the motion to adjourn, Trish, did you want to have a couple comments from the IT department?
I know, I heard him. Hi, I just wanted to say that you don't have to register for for Wednesday's continuation meeting. I will send everybody a link and we'll open up again at 6:30, so anybody having technical difficulties can get on and test out their equipment. Have a good night.
Thank you, Trish. Okay, Mr. George Zelinski, I'll take your motion now.
Mr. Moderator, George Jelinski, Precinct 2, I make a motion, we adjourn this evening's meeting and reconvene on Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Wednesday, May
Second.
5th at 7 o'clock on Zoom. On Zoom. I heard a
On
second.
wherever.
Okay, but on Zoom.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. That's seconded by
Second.
Mark. Mark, thank you all for seconding. Seconded by Mark Semany for the record. All right, I need to take a quick vote on this by raised hand. All those in favor, please raise your hand now. All right, can anybody see that? I got my screen cluttered with 107, yes? Okay, please put your hands down. Can we have the hands lowered? Hands lowered, please. All right, all those opposed, please raise your hand now. See none? Abstentions?
Why would anybody abstain?
Well, you never know, George, whoever abstains. People like to abstain. All right, motion passes. 107 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions. We'll see everybody Wednesday night, May 5th on Zoom. You can start logging in at 6:30 PM. Thank you all for attending tonight. You've been great, great people from the town of Stoughton. Thank you all very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you, Bob.
Moderator. Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good
You're
night.
welcome. Good night.